You are listening to Any Given Sunday, a part of the Dead End Podcast Network. Please subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and all other podcasting services. Please make sure you check out Dead End Hip Hop, Dead End Sports, Dead End Gaming, Is the Mic Still On, Chris Platt's Strictly Hip Hop and Hoops Talk, and a host of other shows on our podcast network. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. You are listening to Any Given Sunday for Sunday, November 29th, 2020. I am your host, Manny Brown, joined by my co-host, Josh Rodriguez. Josh, what up?
What's going on, Manny? How are you? Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Hope it was good. Hope you were
Thank
safe.
you.
Hope you were fed. And happy birthday.
Yeah, man. Yes. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. And the birthday wishes and everybody on social media, everybody who texts me. I mean, you guys make people feel special, man, when it comes to their birthdays. So,
yeah, man.
So much birthday love. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. 34 years around the sun. 34 years around the sun. Yeah.
So quick. It happened so quickly.
Yeah. 34 years, man. I'm coining this birthday as like my last year was my last like birthday in your early 30s. Now I'm in my mid 30s. I can officially say I'm in my mid. Yeah, I know, man. Next year is going to be rough though. 35.
That's
35. That's when you start like, that's like that milestone number when you start thinking like, damn, 35. I'm a grown ass man now. Like, golly.
That age where I'm a grown ass man. That happened once I hit 30. 30 was that number for me.
That's true. It did happen when I was 30, but like 35, I don't know. There was something about 35 that's just
35
like
feels like old. Like,
yeah, man.
Like dad. Like you're a dad, but like you feel like a dad. Like
because even 30 still feels like I'm 30, right? Like right. I'm 30, but 35.
Whew.
You know, like NBA players retire at 35,
right?
Baseball players lose an inch or two off their, a couple miles off per hour on their fastball. Receivers aren't exactly the deep threat they used to be at 35. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like, man.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, that's not what it feels like. That's what it is. Yeah.
So that's why I've been on this like health kick the last 6 months or so, man. So I'm like, I'm about to be 35.
Right.
I can't be walking around with a dad bod, and I got to take care of my health, eat healthy, pay attention to what I'm eating, all that good stuff. So, sleep better, all those good things. So, yeah, this is so for the younger audience, the younger listeners out there, man. If you're listening to this is what you have to expect when you turn 35, or when you're close to being 35, man. You can't just eat whatever you want. You can't just do whatever you want. You gotta, not saying you gotta sit there and eat like a 70-year-old, but just saying, you start thinking about long-term stuff now. As opposed to when you're 20.
If you're listening, thinking, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Like I've been skinny my whole life, or I've been this my whole life. I've been fit my whole life. No, you are not the exception. I'm telling you, you are not the exception.
No,
I was the skinniest person in the world. My weight has fluctuated up and down, ever since I turned probably 30. And I am in the worst shape of my life. And every time I try to get back into shape, I hurt myself. So enjoy it, kids.
Yeah, man.
All downhill.
And it doesn't help that you like. I have a bad back from the military. I'm sure it does before, so it doesn't help that you have a bad debilitating back injury. So it's just like, but no, this year's been good. I've been able to get back into the gym, work out, started lifting again for the first time in a decade. Good. So bro. Like the whole 2010s, and it's worse when you have kids. Like when you have kids, like people don't understand this. Like when you have kids, you have no ability to concentrate on like working out. You just don't, right? You get off of work because you're a dad 24/7, right? So you're a parent 24/7. So you go to work, you come home. The last thing you want to do is like go to the gym. Like, as soon as I walk in that door, like you got 3 kids just hounding your every move. The last thing you want to do is like, oh, let me go to the gym and get, 3 miles in. Like nobody wants to do that. But you got to, man. That's part of life. So yeah. But no, 34 years old, a good number. I'm happy. I'm blessed to make it this far. Some folks don't. Sure. So yeah, I'm blessed, man. It's been a good year. It's been a good year. So yeah, hopefully God blesses me with another year on this earth. So it's always good. It's better than the alternative, right?
That is very true.
Sure.
And you have a lot of years ahead of you. A lot of years.
Yeah. No, I feel like, like I said, I'm feeling better physically now. I've been eating better and sleeping better and all those things. So, Yeah, that definitely helps, man. And don't wait till you're 30 too, by the way. So like my younger guys out there, don't wait till you're 30, man. Start doing that shit now. Do it at 23, start worrying about what you're eating, man. Pay attention to what you're eating, get some sleep, rest, take naps. I'm a big advocate for naps.
See, I can't nap though. Like naps for me are like 4 hours. That's the thing. Like I can't nap for 20 minutes. If I nap, yeah. I am out for like 2 to 4 hours minimum.
But even that's good. That, dude, like I can't stress enough, man. Like I've had days where I'm just like, man, today I just don't know if I'm going to make it. And I just lay down on the couch.
That's how it was today.
And
man.
I just dude, dead ass.
Oh my God.
I was watching the late games and I was just like, man, I'm taking a nap. And glorious 1.5-hour nap. Woke up to the 49ers making a comeback and it was great. It was great. It was great. So yeah, man. Thank you for the birthday wishes, everybody, man. Everybody who texted, posted, etc. Man, thank you so much for the birthday wishes, man. You guys definitely made me feel special. So thank you. Thanksgiving. How was Thanksgiving for you and the lovely family?
It was good. Went out to dinner with my aunt and my dad in Yonkers. It was pretty cool. I had nothing but turkey, per my diet. But it was cool. It was at a restaurant, Texas de Brazil, at the Ridge Hill Center.
I love Texas de Brazil. Yes, yes.
And everyone was wearing masks, and it was social. Everyone was social distancing, and I was kind of nervous to be inside in a restaurant area, but it was fine.
Have you not been in a restaurant since COVID?
No, I have. I mean, since COVID, probably I have, but it's always been outdoor seating. So I'm trying to think of a time where I've been inside. I can't think of a time I've been inside eating. It's always been outside. This was the first time I was inside eating. But at all the table, everyone was just like 6 feet apart at best. And you had to wear your mask up until your food came. So even when you were sitting at the table, you had to wear your mask. They did it very, very well. And, just one of those things. It's just trying to get used to living in this environment. I think we're going to be living like this for a while. And when I say a while, like a year or two, some people say 3, 4, 5. I don't know. But I'm just trying to wrap my head around this being the new normal for a little bit. So,
yeah, I mean, I've been to a restaurant. I'm trying to think. Since COVID, I haven't done any outdoor seatings. So I've been to like 2 restaurants since COVID. Sat indoors both times. It's the Pacific Northwest. Sorry, so you get like 3 months of outdoor seating. So, right. No, the 2 places I went to, 25% filled or whatever. So it wasn't too packed. And I mean, like I said, I felt okay. Like we wore a mask in, everybody's wearing a mask. So even the cooks inside they're all wearing a mask, presumably, right? I mean, from what I could see, they were all wearing a mask. And you just wear your mask at your table and, the only place you're allowed to have it off is at your table.
Right.
That sort of thing. So, I mean, it felt safe. I mean, we came back. It was okay. I mean, I wouldn't recommend, going at a party of 10, I don't even think you can. I think here, like the biggest party you can have is like 5 at a table for a dinner. So they try to keep it pretty regulated. And that was before, obviously, they locked everything down. So now there is no indoor seating now again. So it's only outdoor. And since it's wintertime, pretty much it's all takeout now because most places now are only doing, like even last night, trying to find a place to eat, because we were like, it's a nice night. It was reasonably warm out. So we tried to find an outdoor place and, not too many places seating outdoors. So it's all good, man. Speaking of COVID, I actually had my own COVID scare this week.
Oh no.
Yeah. So Sunday night, legit, right after we recorded, I'm sitting there, starting to edit the show, and I get a text from my trainer saying that, and obviously the gyms have been closed here at that point. Last Sunday, it was, we had been closed for a week, and he said, "Hey, we had a positive test from somebody at the gym, so just as a heads up to everybody, get yourself tested, make sure all good." So, I had my little COVID scare, so I went Monday morning, got myself tested, got my results back Tuesday night.
Okay.
Quick turnaround, all clear, obviously. So that was good. So yeah, I had my own little COVID scare. So
scary, it's like roulette. That's the thing. It's like you get it, you don't even know what it's going to do to you, regardless.
Yeah, and it's like, and the thing and the biggest thing that it did for me, right, was like you could be doing everything right. Like me, I go out, I wear my mask, I socially distance. I'm washing my hands, I'm hand sanitizing, all that good stuff, right? Doesn't matter. You know, it's just like it doesn't matter. You don't know who you're standing in line in that sneezed on another. Like, so it just could be anything, right? It could be anything. So, you know, that's just the other thing you have to reiterate, that, you know, doesn't matter what you do. You could be doing you could be taking all the precautions yourself. Somebody else may not be. And it doesn't even have to be something nefarious. It could be somebody came in contact with somebody that didn't know they came in contact with somebody. Right. It's hard. You just have to try to do your best to, you know, follow the rules, not do anything stupid. And, you know, that's just life. So, but yeah. So what do you want to start with, man? You want to start with the light stuff, COVID and the NFL, or do you want to start with Jake Paul and
let's start with Jake Paul. Let's just get out of the way.
Yeah. So overall, what did you think? What did you think of the event last night? What did you think of the presentation?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch the event. I didn't watch it. I saw highlights, but I woke up and I was reminded that the fight was today, and I did just some backstory. I worked with Nate Robinson maybe like a month or two ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I work for Uninterrupted, for those who don't know, and we have this project called UN Radio or UN Athlete Playlist. And what we do with athletes, they give us a theme, and they pick songs to fit that theme. His theme was fight night for the fight. And so I like literally was talking to Nate Robinson as my driver goes up. I was talking to Nate Robinson for maybe half hour, 40 minutes as he was choosing these songs to represent his playlist for the fight. So like I'm asking him like, oh, why do you pick that? Just long story short. So I was like personally, like, I wouldn't say invested, but I had conversation with this dude about it.
Yeah.
Like even like what did even make, there's things that didn't make the UN radio taping, but like just having casual conversation with Nate about it. Like he was really like excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But just to fast forward and to see a professional athlete who won a slam dunk competition, some say the most athletic person to come out of Seattle, the city of Seattle, to get knocked out by a YouTuber who is at best, and I mean this at best, problematic, at worst, a racist sociopath, was one of the most disheartening things that I've ever seen in my life. There's like just no other way to put it. I felt like I just saw my dad get knocked out by the worst person I saw, and there was like nothing I can do about it. It was awful. Man. And he was wearing knit color shorts, knit color shoes.
That's what made it worse.
It was just everything. That made it worse for me. But just the fact that it's like, there's like a part of me that's just like, it died. But there's another part of me that's like, damn, like, Jake Paul could box, bro. like, as much as I dislike the guy and I don't like anything he stands for, and I think he's toxic, like, I don't want to throw like the retired NBA community at him because they think they have like this street knowledge of how to fight, and then they get knocked out. Because people like, throw world peace at him, throw this person at him.
It's like
boxing's a sport. It's different. It's not the same as fighting. And this motherfucker's knocking people out. Like I don't want Jake Paul to become the Thor of the NBA community. Like that would be like the most ridiculous thing. Like that might be the most ridiculous thing about 2020 that happened. If Jake Paul became like the Thor of like the retired NBA community. Like I don't even know, like that. My brain can't compute that. Like I give up after that.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I didn't watch the event either. Obviously, I caught like the tail end of the Roy Jones Tyson fight. Yeah. And of course, I'm getting updates and highlights on Twitter. I honestly had no interest in watching it. So, but for everybody, from what I heard, it was actually a well put together event. It was entertaining. I think you can ask for
hilarious.
Snoop is amazing. Like, matter of fact, I'm calling it right now. Like Monday Night Football, you guys are always in transition when it comes to your booth. Just bring in Snoop Dogg. Like, you know, like listen. Do I need to listen to Louis Riddick? You know, take a poll. Do you rather listen to Louis Riddick or you want to listen to Snoop Dogg? I think most people would vote like Snoop Dogg, right?
A lot of
same thing. WWE.
Audience, that's not
WWE. Vince, if you're watching this somewhere in Connecticut, go to WWE. You know, bring Snoop Dogg in. You know, he's already got a cousin, Sasha Banks, in WWE. It's a seamless transition, man. Can you imagine?
That's his cousin?
Yeah, that's his cousin.
I didn't know that.
That's his cousin. Yeah, Sasha Banks is his cousin. So, bring Snoop in, man. Can you imagine Snoop Dogg calling a Hurricane Karana? Can you imagine Snoop Dogg calling a light heavyweight or a cruiserweight bout between name two wrestlers? It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting for sure.
If he's entertaining, why not?
Yeah, I mean, he actually was entertaining, and Snoop is a good sports fan, right? So he's a good sports fan. Yeah,
huge sports fan, basketball, football, everything.
Actually, really entertaining, and he's everybody that knows Snoop knows he's a big time sports fan, right. And he's a knowledgeable sports fan. He's not like some poser, right? Like he's actually a knowledgeable sports fan. So yeah, man, why not, man? Snoop has been the revelation of of the Thriller. Of the Thriller pay-per-view event, man. He actually was the star of the event last night. But
someone will recognize it. I'm sure he's already in talks with somebody with either WWE or ESPN or Fox Sports, something like that. I
honestly, bring him in. You know, he was better than a lot of guys that get paid for this shit. Like seriously, you know. Honestly, I'd rather listen to Snoop Dogg than Chris Collinsworth at this point.
Ooh, Chris Collinsworth. I don't mind Collinsworth.
I like him. Chris Collinsworth's okay, but
the only announcer that really gets under my skin is Chris Webber. That's the only one.
Oh, Chris Webber's just horrible. Like Chris Webber is absolutely fucking terrible.
Like, why is he on the A team? Like, I
don't because he's a name. 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 Remember when Turner used to have this strong core of analysts, and now it's just gone to shit. Like Reggie's okay. I like Reggie, but I like Reggie in small doses.
He's okay.
I do think Reggie talks a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
But I like Reggie. Chris Webber is just god awful.
He's on the A team.
He's god awful, man. It's
ridiculous.
He is so bad. It's almost not funny. It's almost angering. It's not funny. It's angering. Like how bad he is. I remember last year, like when like Witten and Booger were getting a lot of heat. Like Booger's well, Witten was terrible. We know that.
Yeah.
And Booger's a studio guy. Like Booger's a studio. Like I like Booger in the studio. I don't like him in the booth. There's a difference. It's a huge difference. Like there's a lot of guys.
Man. It's a skill. And what bothers me too is like I get the fact that you want a pro football player in there to talk the game or to say things that maybe the average person may not know about. But at the same time, like there are people who go to college who try to base their careers around being that person.
Mm-hmm.
Like. And as someone who is in sports media, and I do consider myself a host, maybe even borderline broadcaster if given the opportunity, it's kind of like insulting that you just throw like this guy on there who just because of his name.
No, listen, you frustrating. First of all, you are a broadcaster. Anybody who does a podcast and does this shit on their own from scratch. You know, it's easy to do a show in a studio. You know, under that infrastructure. But when you're doing this on your own, out of your own blood, sweat, and tears, hard-earned money, like you're a fucking broadcaster. I don't give a shit what anybody says.
Right.
That being said, yeah, it is insulting. Like for me, it's insulting. Like I hate, you know, I know this will be a little controversial for you working in Undisputed, but I hate athlete podcasts. Like me personally, like I get now not all of them are bad. I like a lot of them. I enjoy a lot of them. I'm not saying that any athlete doesn't have something to contribute or have, you know, some opinions that I'd like to listen to or hear or think they're good or glib on TV, radio, podcast, whatever. But I just think like when they just give anybody a podcast, like, oh, let's give Dwight Howard a podcast because, you know, somebody thought, like, who cares what Dwight Howard thinks about the world? Like nobody's sitting here saying, you know, I want to listen to Dwight Howard and his thoughts on life. Like nobody, right? Yeah. So I do get offended when I see athletes get, you know, shows that I don't think like really. I never would have thought this athlete, you know, I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to give it an opportunity. I don't want to judge anything on face value. I want to actually listen, but a lot of them are just kind of like, you just got a show because you're X, Y, and Z, right? You didn't get it. I don't think anybody gave this person a show because they thought you were talented. You know, and I feel the same thing for guys that get selected to the booth. Like, you know, they get these guys like Jason Witten, like great tight end. I never listened to Jason Witten on an interview and was like, oh yeah, he's great. He'd be awesome.
And no one thought that either. It's just that he's a well-respected human being in the NFL, I guess, ecosystem who was looking for a job and felt he was entitled to whatever he wanted, and they made him feel that way. You know, gave him the job.
I wish that they start these guys out. Like, there's no problem with saying, hey, Jason Witten, we in a year, we can put you up to the A team, but, you know, start out on the B team or on the C team. Work your way up, get comfortable in the role, give yourself a year. Don't just throw this guy out there to Monday Night Football, no less.
Right.
And expect the guy to just be great. Like, no, they need to get seasoned professionals on this. Now, some people are just born raised for it. You know what I mean? Romo was a guy. You know, I didn't know what to expect from Romo, and Romo's a natural at it, right? Gruden was a natural at it. You know, John Madden is the freaking prototype. He's the guy, right? Like nobody would have expected these things. So not saying that you can't just bring guys off the street and let them hone their craft, but it's hard, man. It's hard. So, but you know, going back to the Snoop thing, like I think Snoop Dogg is a natural. He was hilarious. He made those fights so much better just by his commentary. So yeah, but yeah, Jake Paul, going back to Jake Paul, man, some douchebag YouTuber who has some abhorrent views on a lot of different things is obviously a Trump supporter.
But he's also, but what pisses me off about him, he's also like a proponent for Black Lives Matter. Like he gave this whole rant about being pro Black Lives Matter and understanding it. And it's like, well, how do you go and vote for Trump? Like to me, it's like he's just sensationalist. Like he is the prototypical, like when people bash like YouTubers and podcasters as like influencers, right? Like he is the prototype, right? Like he is the prototype for the influencer culture, right? Dudes that just jump on a wave. Yes. That they're just doing it for likes and attention, and he's that. And look, it's worked out. Believe in anything? Like,
no,
honestly, I don't even think he believes.
Probably not.
He voted for Trump, but I don't even know if he really cares, like, or even has any thoughts.
Probably not. Probably not. And
voted for him because he felt like it was probably the best thing he could talk about on his show.
It's whatever gets him YouTube views, man. Yeah. It gets him likes, and that's what it is, man. It's there is a disgusting element to that where it's just like. There's just nothing to you, right? Like you're just an empty shell of a person that just does anything for attention and likes. And that's what he is, man. And that's why influencers get the heat that they get in some circles, because he's like the prototype. He's like the archetype of like what people see in that culture, right? You know, people that are just do anything for attention. So
for anyone who's listening and does not know who he is, just think what you think. Anything negative about influencers, that is him.
He's him. And the most insulting part about this is that he's probably like the biggest fucking YouTuber on the planet, or he's one of them. Logan. Yeah. Top 10 YouTubers. I mean, they make a shit. Right. Yeah, they make a shitload of money on YouTube, and they have like millions and millions of subscribers. So, and look, I'm not hating. You know, great. Good for you. You know, somebody's supporting the content. Somebody's supporting the movement. God bless them.
Yeah, listen, they have their own wave. They have their own fan base, and you know, it's America. You can do what you want, make the money you want to make. It's just to see someone who, like, I love Nate. Nate's one of my favorite players ever. I'm a Nick fan, for crying out loud. He won the slam dunk contest. He was one of the few things I look forward to in the 2000 watching the New York Knicks. To see him just get
his ass handed to him, and the way he fell, like, yeah. So
to a YouTuber like that, that's like. Yeah, just everything about just the way it looked, everything about it was just so like.
Look, so I grew up in the hood, right? So I've had these conversations with my friends now in the last 24 hours about Nate Robinson. Like, I think to a man, my friends agree, and I agree. Like, Nate Robinson has to shoot Jake Paul. Like, it's he has to shoot him now. Like, he has to kill. Like, you have to kill this. Those are the rules. That's the street rule right there. You know what I mean? Like, that's the hood rules. Like, you gotta take this man out. Like, you've seen Above the Rim, right? When you know what I'm going. You know where I'm going, right?
God, yeah,
Like Nate Robinson needs his own birdie to give him the tool out of the backpack and was like, yo, handle your business. Like, that's what has to happen. Like, I don't know if this is an old picture or not, but a picture started circulating of Jake Paul wearing a Knicks jersey. I believe it's fairly recent.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, a Nate Robinson jersey. Like, bro, the level. Yeah, like the level of troll. I'll text it to you. It's I might use it as the cover for this episode, but the level of petty is just it's egregious. Like, yo, I'm telling you, he's got to shoot Jake Paul now. Like, and I'm not sitting here encouraging violence. I'm just saying. I am. But I'm just saying, street rules, bro. And Nate Robinson's a street dude. You know what I mean? Like, he grew up in the hood. Like, he got to take care of business, Nate. You got to shoot Jake Paul, man. For the culture. I'm just kidding, guys.
I just cannot believe we're talking about one of the greatest athletes who's ever stepped on a basketball court.
Yeah, arguably. Yeah, he's definitely in, one of the great stories, athletes
of our generation.
Yeah, and then he gets, but all jokes aside, right?
Older.
All jokes aside, boxing is a sport and it's a skill, man. Like, you can't just throw. Like, I always hate myself, like I always hate like, oh, he's 6'7", he could beat anybody up. Like not necessarily. I've seen dudes that are 6'3" get knocked the fuck out by a dude 5'8". Like it doesn't matter, man. If your hands are not there, if your hand-eye coordination, and if you don't got these hands, like, oh, it's not gonna work. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, man. You could be 6'2", 250 pounds. I don't care. You know what I mean? If you're not putting in the work, bro, it's not gonna happen. So yeah. So this not only substantiates that, but it proves it beyond reproach, right? That you just can't throw anybody in the ring and think, oh yeah, because I'm sure that when you looked at this fight card, you saw Nate Robinson versus Jake Paul, you were just like, oh yeah, Nate Robinson should win that pretty easily, right?
I didn't know because I've seen footage of Jake Paul before. Like I've seen him knock people out in the boxing ring. Like I knew he could box.
Hey, and the dude look, we're bashing him. We think he's a piece of shit. We think he's a shitbag, whatever. But he can fight. Clearly, like he can fight. And like that's the world. Like just because you don't like somebody doesn't think like for all we both can't stand Donald Trump. I would take Donald Trump in a fight versus Joe Biden. That's just me.
I wouldn't.
Oh no, I would.
Oh, I would take what? Seriously?
I would take Donald Trump in a fight, bro.
I think Joe Biden would whip his ass. I don't think Trump can fight. Absolutely not.
Who knows?
I think he is the way he is because he can't fight. That's part of it.
Probably. He probably is, but who knows, man?
Biden's a vet, right? Biden's a vet.
No, I don't think Biden's a vet. His kid, Bo is obviously, and Hunter is a vet, but yeah, Biden's not a vet.
Yeah, but Biden has this like. I'm not saying Biden has hands. But like Biden has like, this posture and this demeanor to him that like you don't want to mess with him. I'm not saying he's gonna beat the crap out of everybody, but Trump has no hands, man. You can tell me Trump has hands.
Hey man, you don't know.
Trump don't got hands, bro.
He grew up in Queens, baby.
No, he grew up in Queens. He grew up on Queens on the top of the hill or away from everybody else. That man has no hands. What I'm saying, the way he is because he has no hands.
But what I'm saying is like you don't know. Like like I've always maintained this, bro. Like you just don't know who got hands and who don't, man.
That's true. That's why
the dudes who you grew up around and talk a lot of shit and they get their ass into a fight and they get their ass beat down. I've seen it many a times in my life.
I have too.
And then the quiet dude that nobody expects anything out has fucking hands for days, and he will tie you up into a pretzel.
And now with like UFC training and things like that, I tell my future kids if I have any that listen, don't ever pick a fight with nobody because you have no idea what the other person's capable of.
Absolutely. That's facts. That's facts. So yeah, man, Jake Paul beating Nate Robinson's ass is one of the highlights or lowlights of 2020 for sure. I don't think anybody expect. I mean, just the utter domination, like the obliteration of Nate Robinson. Like that's the point. Like if he won, like had he won like an 8-round decision and landed more punches and won a boxing match, like I think okay, great. Like not great, but you would say like okay, he won. Whatever, right? But the domination, like the obliteration of this man, like the way, like, and you can make the case he had him knocked out a few other times in that fight too.
He knocked him down,
knocked him down a couple times actually. And yeah, man, Nate Robinson, bro. Like I'm telling you, bro, he's got a street rules dictate that he got to shoot Jake Paul now. Man. He can't. Jake Paul cannot if Nate Robinson's a real street dude, man, Jake Paul cannot make it to Tuesday. That's just law, man. That's just law.
By the time this podcast is released, a bullet will have to be inside of Jake Paul. Right. Give me the leg. Man.
For real, man. You got to get his street cred back, man. You got to get his street cred. And another thing, we're making fun of Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson is the internet punching bag. Doesn't mean we don't support Nate Robinson or we think he's a bad guy or we're being mean to him. Look, nobody is above jokes. I believe that. Nobody's above jokes. Where it's all in good nature. I'm sure Nate Robinson, after a couple days, was like, whatever. He'll probably be able to laugh at it. And I mean, you know him better than I do. But
I know him. I just talked to him one time.
But you know what I'm saying? Like you have at least had an interaction with him, so you can at least have a better judge of his character than I would necessarily. But look, he probably will laugh at it himself. Look, he's a meme, and then he'll be a meme for now, and then something else will happen, and he'll be replaced.
He strikes me as somebody who would laugh at it.
He'll laugh at himself. He'll laugh at himself like, hey, man, got my ass whooped.
Yeah, and it's one of those things and that's the reason why I've never I know how to box just because my uncle was a Daily News Golden Gloves winner and everything, and my dad sent me to my uncle to just teach you how. That was how some people go to karate, some people go to whatever. My dad sent me to my uncles to learn how to box. So I have an idea how to box and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I've just always been uncomfortable, like seeing people fight, like seeing someone get knocked out, no matter who it is, whether I like the person or not. Like, I can't do it, man. It's just something about it. I feel so bad for the person, whether I like him or hate him. Like those fight videos on World Star or like you see on Twitter sometimes, I can't watch them. Like, to me, I feel horrible for whether they deserved it or not. Like, I feel awful for whoever gets knocked out. Like, there's just something something in my stomach, and you just add to the fact that Nate's someone who I admired growing up, and then to see him get knocked out by a piece of crap individual like who, like, I know that, like, if I got my angriest, I can't do anything about it either. Like, you just feel so helpless. And like,
man, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. I feel bad for the guy. I really do. But yeah. Well, hopefully he can come back from it. Like I said, it's only a short-term thing. There'll be jokes. The people will be talking shit for a while. And then, look, it's all in good nature. Floyd Mayweather, put out a post saying you got to support brothers and black people shouldn't be tearing each other down. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
It's all fun. It's all fun.
First of all, Floyd Mayweather being the voice of reason, shut up. Go stop beating up women. Then I'll take you seriously.
I mean, and honestly, I would rather the black community like make fun of Nate and rather than go be like, fuck white people. But
it's like fun. But it's like obviously, if you know black people more than 2 hours, right? We will bag on each other, right? Like we will, but it's all in good nature. It's all in fun. It's all in, it's like, God damn, motherfucker, you got your ass knocked out by a white boy. Like it,
right. It's all in
good nature, right? It's fine. That doesn't mean that we won't support Nate Robinson. I'm sure Nate Robinson's a good stand-up, solid dude, contributing member of society. Right. We will support him. We root for him. We root for him to bounce back from this. If I'm Nate Robinson, I'll make money off this shit. I'll start signing autographs with my fucking face being knocked the fuck out. Like, hey, you know what? You can. Why not, man? Why not turn a negative into a positive? Shit, fuck it. You know what I mean?
You posted a meme of him laying on a mattress, and that was the funniest shit I've seen.
Oh my God. I found that shit, and I was just like, come on, man. Come on. Oh my God.
The Simba one with Simba.
The Simba one. I seen a video of him getting knocked out. They dubbed in the JR voice from WWE. Yeah. By God. Oh God. It's fun. It's going to be around for a while. So
I feel bad. I just feel bad.
Yeah, I do. Anything else that stood out for you from this event? You see highlights of the Roy Jones and Tyson fight?
To be honest, I wasn't interested. I just wasn't. Like I watched boxing growing up off the simple fact my uncle, again, like he was a boxer. So De La Hoya's, the Tysons, like I'm familiar with them, but I never was, like I said, it's very awkward for me and it makes me uncomfortable to watch people fighting. It's just something I can't do.
Yeah. Especially 50-year-olds, right?
Yeah. And whether it's like competition or not, like I just can't. Yeah. I don't know. I can't do it.
Well, I'm just glad that they both came away healthy. They didn't hurt themselves. That's the biggest MVP right now is them not hurting themselves. That's the biggest.
Right.
It was what it was. It was fun to see them, throw hands. Two guys you probably thought you never see in a ring together. It was what it was. I really had no interest in it. I watched it for the sheer car crash entertainment TV of it. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Like I had nothing to really add from it. Like I said, I'm just glad they both are healthy. And look, a lot of people are making fun of them, 50-year-old guys, but 50-year-old guys that are still in relatively decent shape, obviously well conditioned, that will whip anybody's ass our age. Yep. So, hey, big ups to them, man. And big ups to Mike Tyson, man. It looks like he's just in a better place overall with his life and just.
I met Mike too.
He's just happy. Oh, you have that? See, I met Mike when I was a kid. I was a baby walking around Flatbush, and Mike was in town, and he stopped. He'd always go in the hood, and I remember shaking his hand, like Mike Tyson's hand. I was like 4 or 5, so I knew who he was, but I had no concept of like, oh, this is Mike Tyson. So, I'm happy, man. Mike Tyson's one of my favorite athletes, and I root for him. And he's been through a lot in his life. Some things, self-inflicted, obviously, a lot self-inflicted. But I'm glad that he's just healthy. He's alive. He seems like he's in a great shape, physically, mentally.
Right. He works on himself. That's something I always give Mike. Like, I think he's very aware of who he is and what he needs to work on. Yeah. And I think he tries his best to be a better person. He's messed up in the past and he's done some horrible shit, man. Like, there's no excusing it. Yeah. But you could hope that, and you would hope that people who have done horrible shit in their past turn it around. Doesn't excuse what they did. You don't give them a pass for it. But someone like Mike, I'm not going to be like buddy with him, but like you can recognize, okay, you've done these things in the past and you've turned your life around and you've become a better person. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Yeah. So, all right, let's move on to something not so fun. COVID and football, specifically the NFL and college football, man. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. I mean, it really isn't.
No, but the NFL's just making up things as they go.
Yeah, well, it's what bothers me, and this is going to be rant level. Like,
get it?
This shows that the NFL is just arrogant and pompous and doesn't give a shit about anything but the NFL. Because the NFL, and I said this on the show months back, I said the NFL is treating COVID like, oh, COVID will affect these other little peon sports. It won't affect us. We're the NFL. We're the big bad NFL. We own a day of the week. We own Sundays. We're going to, the NFL refused to alter their schedule. They refused to, alter their schedule from a regional, from just a national schedule to a regional schedule. They refused to shorten their schedule. And they didn't take any precautions whatsoever to get the season in, try to avoid the surge. Like the NFL was going to be a target because it's football. Like if you haven't paid attention, the NFL football in general doesn't lend itself to social distancing, all the things that you have to do not to get COVID doesn't lend itself to that. And look, forget about this whole idea that they would have been in a bubble. You know how impossible it is to get 32 franchises, 53 guys on each roster, not including, taxi squad and folks like that, scouts, general man. I mean, these football teams, these franchises are huge. I mean, that's hundreds, thousands of people in a bubble. Even if you try to do two bubbles, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, it's impossible. You weren't going to do that. You just cannot do that, right? So the bubble was never going to be an option. So they had to do something. They had to shorten the season. Like, there's no reason why we should be playing a full 16-game season. Right. There's no reason for it. We should have, at the very most, we should have been playing 12 games. 12 games. Shorten it, make it a regional schedule like baseball did, where the NFC East plays the AFC East, and so on and so forth. Two, and then your four your two divisional matchups, each way. Like, it just makes no sense to me that the NFL just took no precaution. And you heard about it, right? You heard about the players that were opting out. A lot of them said that the NFL is acting like they had no process. Like the NFL in July, when training camps were starting, they had no procedures in place. They had nothing. Like, how is a billion-dollar organization like the NFL, right, have no procedures in place, have not even a semblance of a procedure in place to counteract this? And I think it was arrogance on their part because, hey, we're the NFL. We're the big bad NFL. We own a day of the week. No, we're going to play our schedule. No governor's going to tell us when we can play, and not only that, we're going to play and we're going to have fans in the stadium. Not only that, we're going to have fans in Dallas. We're going to have we're going to have fans in Kansas City. I mean, it's just absolute arrogance, and it serves them right. And what's the most egregious thing about it? That now we're on week 12?
Yeah.
And it's gotten worse. And it feels like they have no plan in place. Oh, now I read something in Yahoo that they're strengthening their COVID protocols starting tonight or some shit like that. I'm like, oh, okay, it only took 12 weeks. Like, really? Like,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Like, thank you for that, NFL. Like, this is, and I don't even think they're getting killed as much as they should be. And look, I always get blamed for being a baseball defender because I always chill and defend Major League Baseball because I think baseball gets ragged on unfairly sometimes. I remember when the Marlins and the Cardinals were, just back to back got hit with COVID outbreaks. People were killing Major League Baseball. Oh, typical baseball. They don't know what they're doing. Manfred's an idiot. See, that's why baseball's past its prime. Blah, 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 blah. I don't see anybody writing this shit about the NFL. The NFL has done a absolutely horrible job with this. Like, look at the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos didn't have a starting quarterback today.
It's ridiculous. Like, it's a very important game too, by the way.
Right, and an important game. I mean, this is a team that has faint playoff hopes. They had no quarterback to turn to, all because the quarterbacks had a meeting, unsanctioned meeting, where there were no masks. They weren't socially distanced, and there were no masks. Like, how does that happen? And then, of course, the Broncos try to ask the NFL to postpone the game till Monday or Tuesday. The NFL says no. Like, seriously? Like, how do you let a fucking franchise who doesn't have the most important position in the sport playing? Right. Can you imagine that?
Well, I mean, that's the reason why they moved the Ravens-Steelers game, right? Because Lamar Jackson.
Right.
That's the reason why they did it.
So if I'm the Broncos,
Lamar's healthy, the Steelers are playing right now.
Absolutely. So if I'm the Broncos, I'm pissed off. So hold on, let me get this straight. You can move the Ravens, and I get it. They're the Ravens. They have the sexy name. You know, Lamar Jackson, Drew Lock. Obviously, we get it, Lamar Jackson. But that's not fair. I mean, you did Denver a disservice. You did Denver a total. Like, there's no reason why that team should have played today.
Right.
There's no reason.
The Steelers too, to be honest with you.
And the Steelers. They had no. Yeah, absolutely. They had no quarterback. They had no quarterback. They just threw this guy out there, this poor guy who's trying his best. I don't want to kill him. Right. He's not a quarterback. Right. Like, can you imagine if, like, I'll use the baseball analogy. Can you imagine if the Mets have, like, their whole 5 starters and their bullpen, they have no pitchers. So they're essentially throwing Todd Frazier out there. You know,
here comes Juan Lagares.
Here comes Juan Lagares out of the ball. I mean, when you start hurting the integrity of the game and hurting the quality of the game, that's where you have to sit back and say, okay, this what are we doing here? Like that, there's no reason that game should be played. But,
and that's the thing. They've just been completely inconsistent with everything. It's just
incompetent.
Yeah, it's incompetent and inconsistent. They look at the teams that are playing, and it's obvious now after this week. They literally look at the teams who are playing. Okay, who's playing? Who is not going to play? Can we make money off of this game, whether they play or not? And at the end of the day, they didn't feel like Denver or whatever really deserve to have the game move over for whatever reason. But someone like Lamar Jackson misses a game. You can't have that. It's Steelers Ravens. This is the biggest game of the year. We have to postpone this. F safety, F protocol. Like, we have to postpone it. I mean, they should be postponing every game, to be honest with you. So I'm not opposed to them postponing a game if there's players going to the game with COVID. But you have to be consistent. You can't just tell the Denver Broncos to go out there and throw a guy who's never thrown a pass in his life, past freaking high school, to do anything. It's crazy.
And this no consistency. And this goes, and this is directly at the top. This goes to all 32 owners or all 31 owners that allowed this to happen. This goes to Roger Goodell. That goes to everybody in the players, like the Players Association. Everybody has a hand in it. Like, how does this happen? And it's just like.
It's also the new normal, though. Like, I think baseball got ripped because baseball was the first sport for this to happen too. So, like, a game is postponed or a game is canceled or whatever, and it's new. Now, all of a sudden, it's kind of like the new normal. Like, if there's a game postponed, like, oh, well, we saw it happen in baseball. Not to excuse it, because it's wrong. And you are absolutely 1,000% right. The outrage should be there for football.
But they killed baseball. Like, it was just, I'm literally writing art. But there was a lot of agendas in it, obviously, too, though. Yeah. There was a lot of agendas in it, too. And it's just like, that's not fair. And look, we sit there and praise the NBA. The NBA got lucky. Let's be fair. The NBA got lucky. You know, the bubble worked, but they also got lucky. You also need luck with this shit too, you know? Yeah. You know, who knows? Lou Williams stays in Atlanta a couple of days longer, you know, with his infamous chicken wings, you know, who knows, right? So, yeah. And Daniel House, you had the Daniel House situation. That, obviously, they got lucky with that. So, I mean, look.
It's also easier to contain like 12 to 14 players.
Right.
It is 53 or a baseball
Plus, with basketball, like, you could play a basketball game anywall. You could freaking get a gym, some baskets, get a game going. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't do the same thing with football. You can't do the same thing with with baseball. Like,
baseball, they were traveling.
Right. Because you can't just tell the Mets, hey, you're going to go play at, you know, McKinley Park. McKinley Park in Passaic, New Jersey. Like, you're not doing that, right? You're not doing that with no notice and no real ability to alter. So yeah, it's look, the NFL has handled this, and look, college football. I mean, what the hell is college? I mean, is college even taking this seriously?
No.
I mean, it just, and look, I get it. It's a bunch of 19 and 21-year-olds. Look, they're going to be partying. They're going to be doing whatever. But I mean, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Nick Saban tested positive twice.
Here's the thing.
What the fuck is going on? Are these organizations actually doing are they following any protocols? Are they quarantining these players? Are they doing anything? That's what I have to ask.
Players are getting sick. They have symptoms, but no one has died yet. And they are lucky that there hasn't been a professional player or a college player to die from this yet. Because once that happens, all this stops. And I think what happens is, you know, let's just be honest, the death rate for COVID, it's higher than the flu. It's higher than a lot of other pandemic things that we've had around. But at the same time, if you get it, more than likely, you will survive it and you'll be okay. So I think they're just taking a calculated risk of like, all right, these are young, healthy individuals. Yes, they might get symptoms, and yes, we might have some that are sicker than others, but at the end of the day, they're going to be okay. The public's going to see them back on the field in three to 4 weeks, and it's not going to be like anything happened. So to them, it's just kind of like, yeah, we'll say that we'll post this game to COVID or someone got COVID and we're taking this seriously, but at the end of the day, there's really no consequence for that person getting COVID, because at the end of the day, for instance, I do a podcast with Emmanuel Sanders. He missed 2 games because of COVID. This had symptoms. Emmanuel had symptoms. I'm telling you, just from having to talk to him every week and knowing I can't publicly come out and say what was wrong with him. Right. Let's just say he had symptoms. 2 weeks later, he's back.
He's back. Yeah, he's playing.
And he's playing. So in a fan's head, like, there's really no consequence for COVID because all these people are young and healthy and they come back. Yeah. So it's kind of like, why should we postpone things if all these athletes are coming back healthy? It's going to take an athlete really getting sick or dying. To be honest with you, dying.
Yeah, and that's I hate that you say that, but you're right. It is. You
have like your Eduardo Rodriguez which is my first name, by the way, which is hilarious. But Eduardo Rodriguez pitched from the Red Sox. I'm sure you know about that, right?
Yeah,
he has a heart
condition. Yeah,
for the rest of his life. Yeah. For the rest of his life, this guy, he's fucked in the heart.
Look, COVID is serious, man. And that's what we're trying to preach to people. Like, COVID is serious, and you don't know who has an underlying condition. Right. You don't know who has an underlying condition. But my issue isn't even so much with COVID or folks dying. It's just that this billion-dollar organization, and I'm holding these organizations accountable. I'm holding these billion-dollar multinational corporations.
As you should.
Fucking accountable. Like, how are you letting this happen? Like, how is this happening to this degree? And we're in week 12. You've had 12 weeks, not counting preseason, not counting training camp, to get a plan in place. And we know you did it because we've had players come out in droves say they have no policy in place. The players that opted out said the same thing, that the NFL is acting like they have basically like nothing is going on. And if you know the NFL, if you follow the NFL, if you talk to anybody within the NFL for 5 minutes, the NFL is very pompous and very arrogant. They are the NFL and you're not. No one's going to tell us when we play our games. We'll put our games, in a blizzard, because we God forbid, Bears and Packers can't play. We'll put it in a blizzard and we'll have fans sit out there and freeze their asses off. We don't care. We'll switch a game from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock and don't tell fans with short notice. They don't give a shit. And you know why? Because you watch. We watch. And look, you could call me a hypocrite. You call yourself a hypocrite because we're rabid NFL fans and we'll watch. Yeah. But they deserve the criticism, bro. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I mean, what's going on with the Steelers? What's going on with the Ravens? What happened with the Saints? I mean, this thing is the Titans. I mean, and they're finding these teams. They're finding and punishing these teams because they found out that they had COVID outbreaks because of negligence.
Right.
Negligence. It wasn't like, someone got sick visiting Walter Reed and just happened to, happenstance got sick. It happens, whatever, knocking on wood, right? No, this was guys celebrating in the locker rooms, then going home, bringing it back to their family, it's just the level of recklessness that is going on right now in the NFL and in college football, for that matter, is just disgusting to me. And they deserve to be ripped. They deserve to be ripped.
But they won't, because it's the new normal now, which was set by baseball, unfortunately, because it's the first sport. And no one noteworthy, and I hate to say that about Eduardo Rodriguez, but no one cares about the fourth starter on the Boston Red Sox.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
It's no one noteworthy has been affected by this. Like if DK Metcalf has to end his career because
Russell Wilson gets it, that's a totally different conversation.
It's a huge deal. Then the league effing shuts down. I mean, God forbid, a basketball like James Harden gets in, and can't play anymore. Like it's all about who's going to make you money, who has it, and like I said, the death rate, it is higher than the normal disease and whatnot, and it's obviously a pandemic that's sweeping the nation. But at the end of the day, more likely than not, you're going to be okay, especially if you're 20, 30 years old and in the best shape of your life.
Absolutely, man. It drives me insane watching this like this. And look, people killing baseball. Look, the baseball didn't have this. Baseball had a couple teams with an outbreak. The Cardinals, the Marlins that got really hit hard. But outside of that, baseball had a fairly. I know the Josh Turner situation was something.
That was
look. We can have a whole podcast episode on that, I'm sure. But outside of those three things, baseball really, for the most part, had a relatively clean season. The NBA, obviously, we've discussed it. Now it's going to be interesting to see how the NBA responds to this and how the NBA deals with this now that they're going back to their normal situation where they're going to be in their own arenas, got traveling. I think that baseball did it the smartest. I think you should have a regional schedule. limit the travel, because that's a lot of things too. A lot of this is also traveling. You got the Steelers traveling here, you got the Steelers traveling there, you got the Saints going to Denver, coming back. I mean, you can't have this. You got to have a regional schedule, man. So to me, and then people ask how, people that may not watch baseball did it where you had the NL East play the AL East, and then you had crossover matchups, and then you play within your division. And they did that for 60 games.
And as much credit as I want to give basketball for the bubble, like, it seems like the NBA is kind of turning a blind eye to what they did and what worked. And they're going to try to go the football route where they're going to have fans in the stands and have a 72-game season and, travel things and everything. And I think the best thing for the NBA to do is, like, for instance, the Knicks play the Celtics 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Celtics come to the Madison Square Garden, have them play back-to-back at Madison Square Garden, so you cut down the amount of trips that they work.
There you go.
In Boston, you play a back-to-back in Boston instead of going back and forth.
Absolutely.
You visit each city one time. Do that.
Absolutely.
Do it that way. And then also, the Eastern Conference plays the Western Conference twice. I think what they should do is just have them play once. If you want that interconference thing, just have them play once. That's it.
I agree.
You should make and I think personally they should make half the schedule. If this is, I don't even know if this is feasible, but I think it could be, where the West Coast comes to the East Coast and they stay on the East Coast for as many weeks they have to.
Yes.
And then go back, and then the East goes to the West for like a couple weeks, and you do that one. Like, that's it. And that's it.
Yes.
Just have it that way.
Agreed. Absolutely. No, I think the NBA is playing with fire, bro. I agree with you. The NBA is playing with fire right now.
They're about to ruin like everything they did well.
And look, and I know it's easy for us to sit here on our little podcast in our corners of the world and critique these billion-dollar companies for what they should and should do. It's not our billions of dollars. Right. We're not the ones losing $700 million for, advertising and broadcasting fees and all that other stuff. So I get that. I totally understand it. But you got to be smart, man. And what the NFL, and I'm getting more on because I think the NBA for the most part is trying to do the right thing. I even think baseball is for the most part, even though I think Manfred's incompetent. I do think that baseball is trying to do the best they could with the situation. I think the NFL, and I will not get off of this. It was bred and born out of not necessarily incompetence, but almost, how dare you tell the NFL that we're going to play? It's greed, and it's almost this arrogance about them. Like, no governor's going to tell the NFL when to play. How dare the Santa Clara County officials tell the 49ers that they might have to play in Arizona? Like, how dare you? 49ers Rams has to be played. Forget your little virus. So some grandma in Santa Mira dies. Who cares? Right. Hey, Nick Mullins has got to get his throws in. Like, and it's like, and I'm joking, right? But you're not. But I'm not, right? And it's like, it's bred and brought out of greed and arrogance. And the NFL, more than any other league, they don't care. They're going to do what's best for that shield. And
and at the end of the day, they're going to go through a 17-week season, have playoffs and a Super Bowl, and as long as they complete the season, they're going to stand on top of the podium and be like, "We did this successful season," and everyone's just
and that's what's going to piss me. And that's what's going to piss me off. That's what's going to drive me insane. And that's what's going to drive me insane. Oh, I know it's coming, but that's going to drive me. Like, I mean, you're talking. You have these teams talking about, well, let's push the Super Bowl back and make up some of these games. I'm like, no, just get through the season. At this point, don't even postpone games. You know what? If a team makes it to the playoffs and they only play 13 and the team trailing them plays 16, so be it. And I know it sucks. Sucks. It's not ideal.
And also, like, extending the playoffs is the exact opposite thing you should be doing. You should
cut that shit down. I killed the NBA. I killed the NBA because they had
cards. No wild cards. Just straight division winners. Go. Period.
I'm not going to go that drastic, but to me,
this year,
just get the season over with, man.
Yes.
Get the season. Like, under my proposed plan, the regional schedule, you could have been done. You could have played your Super Bowl by MLK.
Right.
Been done. Playoffs in December, Super Bowl by MLK. Or at the very least, end of December, Christmas-ish, whatever, done by MLK.
Yeah.
The key right now is to get through these seasons as quick and possible as you can. And I'm more optimistic about the vaccines, just for everything that we're following up. My daughters have just got into the scene here. I'm more optimistic about the virus and COVID because of the viruses and all the vaccines and how they're progressing. Yeah. Obviously that opens up a different quagmire than what we're dealing with right now, because then you have the vaccine and administrating that shit and all that. Right. But I just think you got to get through the season as fast as you can.
No, I agree. I agree, but then they need a plan for next year too, because if this goes quote unquote well and they have the Super Bowl and it gets played and the NFL can stand on the podium and be like, we did it, it's going to be the same thing next year. And who knows where we're going to get the pandemic next year. I have no idea what it's going to be like next year. I mean, who knows? So I'm with you, man. I
agree, man. Yeah.
But as long as no one seriously gets hurt or no one dies, and I mean it in a literal sense, as long as no one dies, I really don't see the NFL releasing any type of consequences.
It just bothers me, man, because I just think that the NFL has just been so incompetent, has mismanaged this thing, has bungled this completely. And what drives me insane too about it too is like you said, the inconsistencies, right? Because they're fining coaches for not wearing masks. They're doing this, they're doing that, but their overall handling of it has been terrible. It's like they're trying to do the stuff that's on camera. They're trying to do that. They're trying to handle that stuff well, but everything else in the background, it's like they turn a blind eye to. Like, I think it's stupid, right? Like, you're finding coaches for not wearing masks, but yet players can breathe, spit, sweat, poke each other in the eye. Right. It's like, look, football, we said this at the very beginning. I'm like, football does not lend itself well to COVID. It just doesn't, right? Like, I mean, really no sport if you really think about it, but baseball, especially football. Yeah, baseball, obviously, right? But if you can make an argument that no sport, right? Right. But especially football, right? Especially football, and it's so mind-boggling that every layer, from the Players Association, the players, coaches, executives, owners, they've all failed at this. They've dropped the ball completely, and they should be ripped completely.
Because the perception is that they haven't dropped the ball yet. It's normal. It's normal for what's going on. It's normal, especially what's happening in college football. It's normal.
Yeah. And in college football, I mean, and you can make an argument it's even worse in college football. I mean, you got Ohio State that, who knows, maybe they won't, if Ohio State has to cancel another game, they may not even be in a situation where they can even make the college football playoffs. I mean, think about that, because I think they have to play a certain amount of games or have to have a certain amount of, conference matchups or whatever. I forget how it was, but it's crazy. I mean, we're in crazy times right now, man. We're in crazy times right now. And it just shows a lack of leadership in all levels there. So I don't.
There's no consequences unless someone important dies. And I mean dies.
And I hate that you're right about that, but you're right about it. It's absolutely right. If Tom Brady gets it and is in a fucking coma, I know he's playing like he's in a coma, but if he's in a coma, like, of course, right? We're thinking about this totally differently in 2020 and beyond. So, right. Yeah, I just hope they're able to figure this out. But I
hope so too, man. I don't want to see. I know I keep bringing that up, and a lot of times people are like, "Oh, do you want someone to?" It's like, no, I don't want anybody to die. I don't want anyone to die. I'm just saying that's what it's going to take in order for the NFL to take some responsibility and actually enforce something without taking the stand of like, "Oh, we're having a successful season." So,
yeah, I agree with you, man. And look, we're not trying to doomsday it either. Because I know folks will listen. Yeah, folks are doomsday. Oh, these are athletes. They'll be okay. They're multimillionaires. I'm like, that has nothing to do with anything. It doesn't matter.
There are athletes who have been affected by this. They're just not. Right. They don't have big enough names. They don't. Like, what's his name? Was Freddie Freeman, NL MVP? He was really sick before the season started.
Yeah, he actually considered opting out. Crazy, right? He won an MVP season, but he considered opting out. Like, it's serious, man. It's serious, and COVID doesn't discriminate. It's not racist, although Kamala Harris may think it's racist. It's not racist. It gets everybody, man. It gets everybody, and I started the show talking about, you can do literally everything possible on your end to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're doing the proper protocol. You're following the proper protocols, safety, et cetera, and you'll still be exposed. So it doesn't matter, man. I just wanted to rip the NFL because to me, the NFL is not getting crushed nearly enough for completely dropping the ball on this. And yeah, I brought up the vaccine, man. Where are you on the vaccine? Do you think that the vaccine, I mean, I've obviously warp speed. I've been reading up a lot on that and government's response to, the virus and stuff like that. So where are you on that?
My thing is just this. I mean, I trust the CDC. I trust the WHO. I'm not going to read too deep into like where they're at. I know it has like a 95% effective rate right now. I'm not going to look too deep into that. Whenever the CDC tells me that it's ready and good to go, I personally would be comfortable taking it, but I could also understand why someone wouldn't be. We don't know what the long-term effects of the vaccine will be. I mean, pretty much if I'm stepping forward and saying I'm going to have the vaccine, I'm pretty much making myself a guinea pig for what the vaccine is and what the long-term effects could be. But, I'm someone who vaccines don't bother me. They don't scare me. I can understand why it does bother and scare other people, though. Yeah. and I'm not even just talking about from an anti-vax standpoint. I'm just talking about from like putting stuff in your body that you're not comfortable with, especially something that's new and just made. Like I could totally understand.
Absolutely. And historically, people of color have been guinea pigs before and great successes.
So I totally understand that side as well. Just for me, it's something that doesn't make me uncomfortable. Every time I've done, and I haven't done much research on the vaccine itself, but I have trust in the CDC and in science and what they're doing to not force a vaccine upon us. Not saying that the Biden administration won't do it or try to force their hand, but I have way more trust in the Biden administration not to do that than the Trump administration. So
Absolutely.
I'm more comfortable with that. I'm not saying that I do trust the Biden administration.
Right. No, I get it.
They're still the government at the end of the day, and they still have their own agenda. And then there's big pharma, and then there's money to be made. Like I'm not oblivious to that.
I get it. Yeah.
I get that. But I mean, if Fauci, the CDC, and everybody else says that, like, listen, you're going to be fine taking this, at least in the short term, I would be willing to. I'm not saying I'll be first in line, give it to me, but like, give it a couple weeks, see how it is, see what the news says. If studies show that for the most part it's good, that second wave of vaccines, third waves, I'll do it.
I'm with you, man. My wife and I are split on it. She's like, nope, you're not testing me out for anything. You're not going to use me as a guinea pig for shit, and I respect it. I mean, I can't say she's wrong, no, she's not. With our history as people of color, we have a very skeptical history on vaccines and government run stuff on this kind of issue before. Guinea pig stuff before. Yeah, absolutely. So look, I'm with you, man. I think that, I'm not saying, the vaccine drops Tuesday, December 1st.
Same.
Be in line that day to test it out.
Jordan sneakers.
Right. Like Jay's or
vaccine
or PlayStations. Right. By the way, I'm still unsuccessful in acquiring a PlayStation. I've given up now. I've given up my pursuits.
Just wait.
I'm going to wait.
Maybe your wife's going to get it to you for Christmas. You never know.
She stood in line. She actually stood in line.
She tried
on Black Friday, 5 a.m. at Best Buy. Stood in line for them to tell her, "Oh, we don't have any."
Oh.
So yeah, no. That woman loves me. So shout out to my wife. She loves me. She stood in line. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it for her. So
you know what? I'm going to bet money she's going to try again.
She will. She will. Because now she's taking it personal that she hasn't gotten on. So shout out to my wife. No, but we're split on this whole vaccine thing. And look, I can't blame her. I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't think you should be signing up December 1st to go get a vaccine that day. I think that you should do some research. I think you should take time. I think you should let people test it first. The folks that are trying to go, get it the first day. Sure, I guess, whatever. And I don't think it'll be like that. Like, I think it'll take time. I don't think it'll be something that's just going to be out there ready to go. Like, yeah, let's do it. Although Pfizer and Moderna are saying it, I think there will be a little bit of a testing period, I think.
Well,
that has to be, right? Yeah. I mean, they might start off with a small pool of folks that, maybe the folks that are most susceptible, maybe they might start out with them, or folks that
nursing home people,
right? Nursing home people, that sort of military. I could see that being a thing. But yeah, I think take your time with it, obviously. But no, I look, like I told my wife, I'm like, I don't want the anti-vax crowd to be like, oh, I'm not ever taking it. I'm like, look, if you want to get back to normal, we need a vaccine.
Period. I agree.
That's it. So
because herd immunity is going to kill everybody. I don't want to get that discussion.
Don't even get that to start. That discussion started. But look, I think the faster, I don't even want to say faster, but for lack of a better term, for the faster and more effectively we get a vaccine out to the general public, the faster we can get back to normal. Right. And it won't be right away. It'll take some time to distribute it. I mean, we are a country of 330 million people, so it'll take time. But hopefully by next summer, I mean, I've listened to a podcast with some health experts that are very high on the vaccine. They're saying by next summer, late summer, early fall.
I heard end of
2021. It'll be, yeah. You heard end of 2021. Yeah. That kind of, so yeah. If by this time next year, we have a virus out for the masses and it's been tested and it's been proofread and safeguarded and all the precautions necessary, then yeah, I'm on board, man, because we need something. We're not going to get back to normal until we have a vaccine. Right. And look, I'm not a fan of Big Pharma. I hate Big Pharma, but look, I'm rooting like hell for them. I'm rooting like hell for Moderna. I'm rooting like hell for Pfizer and whoever else that comes up with a virus.
And both things can exist, right? There can be a pharmaceutical like industry that profits off of people being sick, which is absolutely true, which is a huge problem with the healthcare system I have in this country. That can exist, but at the same time, what can also exist are dedicated scientists who've dedicated their lives to helping people and coming up with cures like this. I mean, those two things can exist at the same time.
Absolutely. You can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Right. And I feel like that's what's happening right now. I mean, I know a lot of people are anti-vax or are skeptical of vaccines, but at the end of the day, these are people who have dedicated their lives and who have studied and who have experimented and have done different things for this moment, basically. And I think if the CDC is telling me, you know, a CDC organization of professional people who live for this shit and study this shit and are experts on this shit, come here and say, hey, listen, this is what it is. This is what it's going to, like, you know, that has this effect rate. These might be the symptoms, like just knowing everything that's possible. And if they release the vaccine saying that it's safe for the public and I'm fully aware of what I'm getting myself into, like I have no problem taking the vaccine. And like I said, I understand why people would have a problem. I understand why people would be nervous, you know, putting something into your body. I totally get that. But, to people who are just anti-vax, I think that, you know, it's not as simple as like big pharma is just trying to make money off of just injecting things into our body and it's a whole government conspiracy, because it's not. I mean, these are people who literally dedicate their lives into cures so that we can have things that are like, so we don't have polio, so we don't have like measles, things of that nature. There are reasons why we don't have those things anymore. So, you know, I hope,
and it benefits them. It's like it benefits them.
Yeah,
they're people too, right? But not even on that route. Like they're people too, so they're susceptible to this just like we are. Right. So it's in their best interest to get a vaccine because it's their life too. Like
and you know, and I listen. And like I said, there's a difference between someone to me who's anti-vax, like no, never, and someone who like might have a pre-existing condition where like maybe something putting yours on your body, like because there are people like that. Like vaccines don't have the same effect to everybody. There are things that can go wrong with anybody.
Absolutely.
Children, like people's children, and I totally understand that. I understand the hesitancy, and I'm not recommending those people line up and get the vaccine. But what I am saying, for the most part, for the general public, for, you know, the majority of people out there, I think that, you know, eventually, you know, a year or two into this and you see that the vaccine's working, there's no reason not to get one. That's just how I feel personally. But, you know, to each his own. And, you know, everyone's different, and some people have different conditions and their kids have different conditions. And I could understand why, you know, no one would be thrilled or you know, jumping for door that this is a pretty much a solution to the COVID virus. I mean, some people rather catch COVID than put a vaccine in their body. And you know, I'm not going to judge someone who has experience with their children. Or
you're right. I'm not going to judge anybody. I just would say we got to rally around these companies that are developing these vaccines and hope and pray that they've tested it. Hope and pray and root like hell that these vaccines work. And it's in our best interest. And like I said, don't rush into anything. Research, watch the news, listen to podcasts, do your own research. Don't just watch the media, or don't just watch them. Do your own research too. You know, seek out health professionals, ask questions, show up at your community centers, at your council meetings, because, you know, most council meetings nowadays have, health department officials on there. Ask them straight up what they think of the virus. What are the prospects? You may get different answers because they're different people. Everybody's dealing with it differently. Everybody's processing. Everybody's getting different informations, or they may have a different opinion on it. But do your own research is the biggest example I can.
Yeah, and I just don't like conspiracy. I'm someone that, like, conspiracy really turns me off. So when, you know, the whole case against the vaccine is like, well, it's big pharma, like they just want to make money. It's like, yes, that is true. Like, of course. And I have a huge problem with how our government profits off of us being sick. But two things can exist at once. You can have a corrupt healthcare system that's profiting also off us being sick, but you can also have people who have literally dedicated their lives to this, trying to help us out.
Absolutely.
I do trust the CDC. I do trust their recommendations, and I do trust people like Fauci. You know, he wouldn't be the man he is, or the position he's in today, if he, you know, didn't dedicate his life to this. So, you know, that's just where I stand personally. And, you know, I'm not going to try to get anyone to think like me, but yeah, I would have no, like, the second or third wave of the vaccine, I wouldn't have a problem taking it. I don't want to be the guinea pig. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. And same here. Yeah, same here. So, Yeah, man. Like I said, hoping and praying this thing is legit and it works and we can get back to normal, man. Because like I said, we can't survive like this, and that's a whole nother conversation, obviously. But we can't survive like where we're currently going. So, let's hope and pray that these guys know what they're doing and that they're not bad faith actors. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
All right, let's run through this NFL schedule. Week 12 NFL. You know what? Hey, my hope is to get this thing sponsored one day, man. Like, have NFL, NFL films in the background playing. Like, that'd be dope, man. Hopefully, 2021. We'll see. But let's run through the schedule. Let's start with the Thursday Thanksgiving games, which were absolutely abysmal and terrible. Texans Lions, the game that sealed Matt Patricia fate in Detroit.
Lion fans rejoice everywhere. It's a good day.
Yeah.
It's a good day to be a Lions fan.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Matthew Stafford, who you think who's criminally overrated, I don't think is criminally overrated. He's probably on the tail end of his prime right now, so you don't have many years. You're probably going to have to rebuild very, very soon. But you know what? Matt Patricia's gone. You can have a new identity. You can move on because he was awful. So, in a way, they lost, but they won.
Yeah, the Matt Patricia era is finally over, and as far as Bob Quinn too. So Lions fans, I know a couple of them rejoice. I will say this: how many coaches and GMs is Matthew Stafford going to get to pick?
I would say this: Matthew Stafford is, he did lead him to a division title. He has brought him to the playoffs twice. He did get robbed that one time in Dallas. Maybe his legacy is a little different. If he wins that game in Dallas, wins the next game, who knows? We're talking about Matthew Stafford here.
Yeah.
I do understand the Pat Stafford argument, though, and I don't think it's invalid. I just think he gets too much heat.
Too much cream. Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. And Washington is going to win that division.
I don't know, man. If Daniel Jones is healthy, look out, baby.
The walking turnover. Jesus Christ. Hey, better, Alex Jones might be,
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith, I'm sorry. Alex Jones. Jesus Christ. How did I make that mistake? Alex Smith might be the best quarterback in that division. And that's saying a lot.
I'm not saying he might be. He is.
Yeah. So I think the Redskins might win that division, man.
It's between them and the Giants. I think the Cowboys are done.
The Cowboys are done. The Eagles
are about to fall apart.
I'll still give the Eagles the slightest of edge.
That tie might save them, if anything.
It might, but we'll see. But look, I honestly at this point you can't be surprised if any team wins that division.
Listen, I just like the way the Giants play. The Giants play hard every single game, and I'm not saying the Washington football team doesn't or the Eagles don't, but I just see this inspiration coming from the Giants, and their defense has vastly improved. Daniel Jones was playing a lot better before he got injured today. I think they're just a slight better football team than the Washington football team.
We shall see.
We shall see. Healthy, so
we shall see. We shall see. And the Cowboys are just an absolute disaster. And this might be a one and done year for our boy Mike McCarthy. So Cowboys are a complete mess, and it's unbelievable with all that talent on that team. Just
you don't have your quarterback, man. I mean, that's
true. But I'll be one. I expected Dalton to play better, and he just has not. He's been hurt too.
Maybe that shows how good Dak is. Maybe Dak getting hurt showed Jerry Jones how valuable he is.
Let's hope. Let's hope, because unless you're picking a quarterback in a draft, right. I don't see you getting a better replacement for him right now. So
right.
We'll see. Chargers and Bills. Anything stand out about that game?
No, nothing really. I mean, I'm disappointed that the Chargers couldn't put up more points. I mean, Justin Herbert looks good, but they're either playing with a big lead and then blowing it, or they're coming from a large deficit. It's just like no in between the Chargers.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Lynn. I think his days are numbered.
And I like Anthony Lynn. So I hate to say that, but hate to hear that. But
I think he's a bad coach.
Yeah, it's hard. It's getting harder and harder to defend Anthony Lynn. Yeah, absolutely.
He's
the Bills to me might be the worst 8-3 team I've ever seen.
What about the Cleveland Browns?
I think the Browns are better than Bills.
Really?
Honestly, I just don't love the Bills. I'm unimpressed with the Bills.
Either, but I take them over
I'm unimpressed with the Bills. Like, to me, they have a solid. I mean, look, and they've had a lot of injuries too. To be fair, they've had injuries, but it's the NFL. Every team has injuries. yeah, I just look at the Bills. I'm like, Josh Allen, he's up and down. I mean, one day you love Josh Allen, the next day you hate Josh Allen. I mean, it's just that's just the level of player Josh Allen is. I mean, their offense, it's good. It's not great. It's better than it's been in the past. You know, Diggs has played well. That combination has worked a lot better than I think I ever thought it would work. Diggs and Allen, but still, I don't love their offense. Their defense, you know, hasn't been as good. I love their coach. I think he's a hell of a coach. But to me, they're just unimpressive to me. They just really are. So I don't love them. So that's the thing that stands out for me. And going to that next game, Browns and Jaguars. Look, I gotta start shutting up about the Browns. I think the Browns are doing a really good job. I still don't. I think Baker Mayfield's a game manager. I think Baker Mayfield's extremely overrated. I think Baker is settling into what he is. He's a game manager, slightly above average game manager. He's Jeff Garcia. He can win you games. He could get you to the playoffs. Is he going to win you a championship? No. He's a good football player.
I take Jeff over him.
I can't argue that. But he's going to be that Jeff Garcia type where you put him on a good team with all the pieces around him. He can win for you. That's it. That's it.
Listen, Stefanski,
I love their running game too.
Yeah, they know themselves. They know, hey, listen, we're a running football team. We're going to run the ball no matter what, and we're going to rely on our defense to win. And they do that every single week, and they don't get away from it. They don't expect Baker to go win a football game no matter what the score is.
That's what they are.
Stick to the script. Nick Chubb 25 times, Kareem Hunt 10 to 15 touches.
Beast.
Baker, we're going to have you throw 20 times, complete 15 of them. We're fine.
Yep, that's it. And hey, that style of football still wins, and that's why. And I think that's why I like the Browns, or I'm starting to get them like the Browns a lot more because
they know themselves,
and they're an old school football team. They're ground and pound defense, ball control. Right. I like that style of football.
Yeah.
So shout out to the Browns, man. They might make the playoffs. So yeah,
they will make the playoffs. They
will. Oh well, it's the Browns. Let's slow down. It's still the Browns, and they're capable of blowing. I mean, if any team is capable of blowing an 8-3 record. And, in the final 4 weeks of the season or 5 weeks of the season.
It's true. It's the Browns.
So, let's slow down. But no, right now it looks like they're going to make the playoffs, and the Jaguars are just the Jaguars. So there's nothing else to say there. Titans and the Colts, a game that I thought was going to be a lot closer than it actually ended up being.
This is what I thought the Titans were going to do the Colts a couple weeks back when we talked about it, and you said that you like the Colts a lot. When I was shocked because I thought the Titans were. I don't know if I think this anymore. I think they're kind of on the same playing field, the Titans and the Colts, where it's like there's a class of the AFC, and then they're in another class. They're like in the second tier.
In that second tier.
Yeah. I think these teams played 10 times. They would split 5-5, and you just saw the Titans have the upper hand today. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. They're fairly similar. I would say the Titans defense. I still don't love the Titans defense.
They don't turn anyone over really. I mean, they had a few today, but for the most part, they just kind of like like bleh.
It's crazy. I love the Colts defense over the Titans, and I love the Titans offense over the Colts offense. So that's the interesting part when you're watching these two teams.
Right.
The Titans they're that next tier. They're that tier that's going to play with the Steelers and the Chiefs, and hopefully try not to get killed. So exactly. We'll see. But yeah, I think the Colts. The Colts had two big wins before this game. I was surprised that this game wasn't a lot closer. I'll be honest. I was surprised. Giants and the Bengals. Your Giants, man.
Man, that defense,
talked about it a little bit.
I mean, listen, it's easy to play defense. You're playing against a backup quarterback, but Daniel Jones didn't turn the ball over before he got hurt. Went out the game with a hamstring injury. Hopefully, it's not too serious. But like I said about the Browns, the Giants know themselves. They know what they are. And Joe Judge has those guys fired up. They, want to play for him. I think it's a huge deal, considering that the Giants didn't have that for the past 5 years. They didn't like McAdoo. They didn't like, the Schumer. Like it wasn't like they had inspiring front office guys or inspiring coaching staff to get behind. They just seemed like they never wanted to play for these guys. And now they have a coach they want to play for. And look what happens. You get a bunch of defenders who no one's ever heard of, and they turn into a really good defense. Shout out to Blake Martinez, who comes over and he kind of anchors it all. They're 4-7. They're not that good of a football team. They might make the playoffs because it's the NFC East, but as a Giants fan, it's pretty fun watching because, when you have a team like that isn't good, but they play their asses off and they give you an opportunity to root for them, it actually turns out to be pretty fun. So it's a fun year to be a Giant fan, despite the record.
Yeah, look, and I'll get into this later with the Rams and the 49ers, but this is to me where you judge a good coach and how good a coach is, man. The Giants a few weeks ago, they lost their best player, Saquon Barkley. Everybody's ripping Joe Judge. Everybody's ripping that quarterback. And I still don't believe in Daniel Jones. I don't think he's the answer long term.
I don't either.
But look at, give Joe Judge credit. And I was skeptical on the hire. And look, I'm not sitting here putting them in Canton. Let's slow down either. They're still 4-7, and anything can happen in these next 5 weeks. That being said, this is where you could tell where a coach is going to be good or has the makings to be a good coach. He's got that team playing hard. They don't have their best player. He's got them, and I know you could say, well, it's easy to replace a running back. True, but losing your best player is still losing your best player. That team could have fell apart for Joe Judge, and they didn't. He kept that team together. And that to me, that shows me a good football coach, man. Or has the semblance or the makings of being a good football coach if he gets some talent. So this
is my hot take with Joe Judge. And I'm saying this at a time where the Giants are playing the best football of the year.
Okay.
So I mean it. I think his act is going to get very old. I think he's going to have 1 or 2 good years with the Giants. And I think eventually it's going to cause some type of revolt in the locker room, and there's going to be a season where everything just nosedives, and I think he's going to get fired.
The issue with Joe,
it's too much. Like, I understand, like, the tough guy, we're a football team, but he's too much. He's fighting with offensive lineman coach. He's like yelling at the media. I understand wanting to be like this tough guy, and it's very similar to like Rex Ryan when he's with the Jets. Like, they took on his personality, and it was great for 2 years. But then after 2 years, it was like a shit show.
It gets old. Yeah,
that's gonna happen.
You're not wrong. And look, I'm always skeptical with guys like that, because to me, you can act like that when you win. You can get away with that when you win. And then when I say win is 12-4, you're a top seed, and you're competing for Super Bowls. Right. You can get away with that stuff when you're winning. When you're not winning, that shit's not going to play. And I agree with you. And especially in New York, people are going to see through that. Right. I think he's better suited to be a college coach. He just gives off college coach vibes to me more than an NFL coach to me. Look, but I'll give him credit. Look, he's doing a better job than I thought he would do. So
he deserves a lot of credit. I just gave him a bunch of credit, and I think next year they're going to be fine too. And maybe the year after, but there's going to be a year where
there's a shelf life. There's a shelf life.
Crashing. But for now, yay! I'm happy. But I know it's coming. In my head, I know it's coming.
Yeah, there's definitely a shelf life for guys like that. So we'll see. We'll see. And the Bengals, man, they're just like I said last week, man.
Yeah. No, Burrow. Listen, they play hard. They're not even plays hard, but they don't have to
hard. They played hard. Look, if I'm the Bengals, man, Joe Burrow, see you in 2022.
Right.
You can't risk
draft the lineman.
Draft Penny Sewell and keep building that team, building the infrastructure around that team. Draft some receivers, draft some running backs, defensive linemen, etc. Just keep building the team and see you in 2 years. Make next year a red shirt for Joe Burrow. You're not ready to win anyway. You're not competing with the Steelers. You're not competing with the Ravens.
Right.
Just build it up.
Let Ben get 1 more year older.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. The worst game of the day by the worst team in football, Dolphins and the Jets. There's nothing else to say about the Jets. The Jets are
There's one thing to say.
What's that?
I love Sam Darnold, but I cannot defend him anymore.
Yeah, it's over. What I think it is with Sam Darnold? I don't mean to cut you off. I just add this. You know what I think with Sam? I think his confidence is shot. I just think he has no confidence. I think he honestly he's someone that will need. I think he could still be a good player. I really, really believe this.
So do I.
I just think he just needs to go somewhere, sit for a year, build his confidence back up, get healthy mentally too, because I think that the Jets have just completely broken him.
I agree.
I really do.
That's part of what I was going to say. It's like he has all his weapons for the first time and they put up 3 points. At the end of the day, it's like this is not working with Sam Darnold. It's not going to work.
But also, is it all Sam Darnold too? I mean, it's also Gase he might be the worst football coach I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them.
He might be the worst football coach.
Remember, I rooted for Rich Kotite. Think about that. Our franchise has had Rich Kotite, and we're actually having a debate that Adam Gase might be worse than Rich Kotite. But just saying something.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason why he's around is because Peyton Manning swore by him.
Jesus Christ. Don't bring that up to me. Peyton Manning, who didn't want to play for the Jets, who decided to go back to Tennessee, but now he wants to call the Jets and foist on them this fucking clown of a coach.
That got him the job.
Of course I got him the job, because Christopher and Woody are fucking idiots. So of course I got them the job. I mean, they're whores for anybody with a name. Woody Johnson and Christopher Johnson. So, Daryl Revis calls them and tells them that his cousin, who helped him become a good defensive back, swears by a coach of theirs. And, we got to hire him because Daryl Revis' cousin swears. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, bro. Like Peyton Manning of all people, who didn't want to play for the Jets, but now Peyton Manning wants to foist on him Adam Gase. Jesus Christ. And you know the insult. You got me going now. You got me going with this rant. You know what the insulting thing about it is? That Adam Gase has a shelf life in the NFL because he was Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator. Like I can be Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator. Hey, Mr. Peyton. Hey, Mr. Peyton. You might want to run this out route here. Right. Yeah, sure, kid.
Hey, I'm going to call a play that you're going to change at the line anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, Omaha. That Omaha play. Let's just run that.
You're just going to audible out of what I call.
Fuck out of here, man. Look, this is too much attention that even the Jets deserve. We'll get with the Jets hopefully in the offseason when they've officially fired that clown of Adam Gase and are drafting Trevor Lawrence.
Can you imagine they don't fire him?
Don't say that. Don't say that shit. Don't say that. Don't say that. I won't let you say that. Don't say that. Don't say that, man. Don't you dare. Don't put that on me.
If that happens, Nate Robinson has to make a stop in New York with the gun.
Yes, for sure, man. For sure. I don't want to advocate violence on this show, but it's been a long year. It's been a long year. We're advocating violence. We've reached that point in the year where, maybe violence is warranted. No, man, I don't want to think about it because it could happen. I don't think it will. I mean, if he goes 0-16, I don't care. I don't care who it is. It could be Woody Johnson's son. You can't bring it.
It was just fun to work you up. There's no way it's happening.
Yeah, I know. And the Dolphins, man, they get a much needed win, a bounce back win for them. 20-3. It always helps to play the Jets. So
Tua is hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt. Not the worst thing in the world to have Tua sitting and look, that's why I am skeptical of Tua, man. He's always hurt.
Yeah,
he's always hurt. I worry about that kid long term. Now it's a thumb.
Yeah,
now it's a thumb. In college, it was a hip. It just, I don't know, man. Guys like that just don't stop getting hurt. That's for sure. So, yeah, I'm skeptical of Tua long term, and I've been since last year. I've been. But hey, they got Fitzpatrick, and he's a guy that can at least, we know Fitzpatrick can get you there. Now, once you get there,
what a career Ryan Fitzpatrick has had, man. I mean,
he's had an amazing career
with the Bills, and then he had that.
He's played for everybody in the division,
but he's been like the lowest of lows, but also like has done
the highest of highs.
Yeah, like with this Dolphins team, like a lot of that is Fitz, and then the Jets that one year with
that is the perfect encapsulation of his career. He has a great year. I think he throws 33 touchdowns, like 16 picks or something like that, and then Week 17 in Buffalo, playoffs on the line, 10-5 Jets.
I'm sorry,
and that's literally the encapsulation of Ryan Fitzpatrick's career.
I like that Jets team a lot, man.
You did? Yeah, I did too.
that was Bolt's first year, right?
That was his first year, and it just went all downhill, and we have never recovered since. So, enough with the Jets. Let's talk about another struggling team, although they won today. The Falcons, 43-6 over the Raiders.
Raiders just didn't show up. Like, there's just nothing else to say. You turn the ball over that many times. Derek Carr has a terrible game. It's just sometimes you get out of bed and you have an awful day. That's what the Raiders had.
They literally got out of bed because it was a 10 a.m. start for them local time. So, yeah. I'm always skeptical of those West Coast teams when they go into the East Coast and play the early games. I'm always skeptical of that. I think that that's always a recipe for disaster. The Raiders just didn't show up. I watched a lot of that game, or at least the beginning of it, and they just didn't show up. They just nothing else to say. There's nothing schematically or technical to say about them. They just didn't show up. And Falcons, look, give the Falcons credit. They're playing hard for Raheem Morris. That's another team that could have packed it in. They're playing hard for him.
Yeah, they're like what are they? 4-2 in the last 6.
Yeah. So I don't know what that says about Dan Quinn or not, but hey, give them credit. They're playing hard. Panthers and Vikings, 27-28 Vikings.
Kirk Cousins keeping their season alive. It's disappointing. I feel like the Panthers could be better. There's a lot of games that were winnable that they just at the end they just couldn't finish. I like Teddy Bridgewater, but they're just not their defense too. They're just not a good football team. They're a team that can compete. They're going to give you problems, but shout out to the Vikings. The Vikings are a team that are frustratingly mediocre. They should be better than what they are.
I agree. Two teams that are kind of similar in a lot of ways. The
Vikings should be better. The Vikings are a better football
team. The Vikings,
team.
The Vikings should definitely be better. And I think the Panthers should be better too. Like, I know they're still kind of in a quasi rebuild, but I think the Panthers should be a lot better than 4-8. They've played better than 4-8. I'll say that.
That's what they could be 6-6 right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. They absolutely could.
I mean, in this game, they field here. I mean,
they played the Chiefs hard. I think they're also thing is they haven't had their best player. I mean, McCaffrey's just been injured all year. So that's part of it too. So Cardinals and the Patriots. Do we have trouble in Arizona?
Yeah, Cardinals are Fugazi this year. I don't think there's trouble this year. I just think they're not as good. Like, Kyler Murray's exciting, and I think a lot of people latch on to Kyler being exciting and DeAndre being as good as he is, and that offense being kind of like college-like, and people like want to fall in love with them because they're an easy team to root for, but it doesn't mean that they're that good, and they're not. They're a good team. They're an average, a little above average, first round and out football team. And that's what they are. They're not going to win like the games on the road with a team that like the Patriots, who are pretty decent. I wouldn't take the Cardinals to win that game. Period. They on the right night they might come out and surprise you, but at the end of the day, they're just a regular, slightly above average football team.
I agree. I think they're a young team that's still learning how to win some of these games.
Yeah.
I think that I always worry with young teams. Everybody was patting them on the back after beating the Bills. Everybody was throwing bouquets at them. They had that game for the division or to take the lead in the division. And I think that when you're a young team and you're still learning how to win and learning how to be a good football team with expectations, I think that's always a trap type of game. And you can just tell they haven't recovered since then. So
I mean, if that Hail Mary doesn't happen, we're having a totally different conversation about the 500, and it's like, that saved a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the Patriots, look, give the Patriots credit, with everything that's going on, COVID, lack of weapons.
Going to show up defensively.
They're going to show up defensively. Belichick is still a genius. And, Cam is winning games for them. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, Cam is interesting. We talked about COVID, but ever since he came back from COVID, he just has not looked like the same person. I don't know how much it has to do with COVID. I don't know if there's any lasting effects, but I mean, I remember
there has to be, right? There has to be.
His first few games back, man, he didn't even look the same human
being. He was balling. Yeah, he was balling. Yeah.
So I mean, the same thing Patriots too. Like they're a play away from winning in Seattle. Like they could easily be like fighting for that division lead, 6-5 or something like that, man.
Absolutely, and I still think they're in it. I mean, I think that's still
they still have the Jets on their schedule. Like they're going to see the Dolphins. They can make up ground there. Like
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. 49ers and the Rams. Surprise of the day. I did not expect that from the 49ers.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either. I mean, the 49ers are undermanned and everything, and the Rams coming off of an impressive victory against the Bucs. Maybe it was just a little bit of a hangover. I didn't watch the game, to be honest with you, but that's the only thing I could really think of. The Rams just had a little bit of a hangover. I mean, Jared Goff is incredibly inconsistent.
Yeah.
He's someone I do like. I think you can win with him, but you're going to get games like this. And I just think he just so happened to game like this. I wonder what his stats are against the Niners. I think this is off the top of my head, I could be wrong, but I think he struggles against them.
It sounds about right. I think there's something to that. Yeah. Look, the 49ers that shows Kyle Shanahan's a hell of a coach. The fact that he's got that team 5-6 and they've lost their quarterback, their best defensive players. I mean, everybody. And Kyle Shanahan still has that team playing at this level, still somewhat in it from a playoff perspective. Kyle Shanahan, and they still have weapons. And Nick Mullins has played well. And look, give him credit. They figure it out. Kyle Shanahan's a hell of a coach. You won't hear me say anything bad about Kyle Shanahan. He's still a hell of a coach, and good win for them. And look, I think the Rams had a little bit of a hangover, but that's a game you got to win. I'm sorry if you're the Rams. That's a game you got to win. So
I agree.
Yeah, really disappointed. I've been banging the drums on the Rams, man. I've been high on the Rams, and they just
and listen, it doesn't mean that they're not as good.
No. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. And they made a comeback. They made a comeback late in the game because I didn't watch. I watched the first
solid man.
Well, I watched the first half of the game and I took my nap because I just thought the game was over. I mean, they were just up big, and I thought, hey, this is going to be one of those disappointing games, but. Yeah, the Rams made it interesting, came back at the end to tie it and give the 49ers credit. Their 2-minute offense was great, came down, kicked field goal, and win a game. So, yeah, that's the 49ers for you. Saints, Broncos. I think we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the show. Nothing much to add.
The biggest joke of an NFL football game that's ever been played.
Yeah. I mean, you'd never see a game where you just felt like this team just didn't need to be out there. And that's what it felt like today. When you don't have your quarterback, that's the most important position in sports. Again, for the NFL to do that to the Broncos, I don't care if the Broncos are 4-7 or 4-6, 6-4, 8-2. It doesn't matter. You can't have a team play out there. I mean, the Broncos were trying to get their coach to play fucking quarterback for God's sakes. I mean, it's embarrassing, and it's embarrassing for the league. And again, I want to see more people rip the league. The NFL, to me, I think the NFL gets a little bit. The NFL, of all the leagues, I don't think they get killed enough by their writers. Like, I think people should kill the NFL for this, because this was a disgrace. And look, not saying that they would have beat the Saints had Drew Lock played, but it would have been. I think it would have been different than 31-3, right? For sure. The Broncos were not competitive. They're just not competitive. They didn't have a quarterback. So, and the Saints are the Saints. So there's nothing else to really say there. Chiefs and the Buccaneers. Thoughts on this game?
Buccaneers are fugazi, man. They're just fugazi. And you hit it right on the head, where it's like, yeah, the Buccaneers defense looks good against teams that they should dominate. But when you get a good quarterback in there, you get a good offense in there, Swiss cheese, baby. That's exactly what it is.
Outside of Aaron Rodgers, they've not been good. I mean, ever since that Aaron Rodgers games, they have not been good. I mean, that defense more than anything else. That defense more than Brady, more than anybody else. That defense is the biggest culprit for why that team is.
It is, and Brady will get a lot of the flack, and deservedly so. He has not played well, but and this game, 3-point game, field goal game. This game was not close.
No,
it wasn't close.
No.
The Buccaneers are. They're like we're doing these tiers, and in the AFC you have the Chiefs and the Steelers. In the NFC, to me, it's the Saints, and then it's other people. Like you have the Seahawks. I think, and they might have. I'm sorry, and
I'm saying the Buccaneers might find themselves out of the playoffs too.
That's what I was
they're barely holding on.
I don't even think they're in the next tier. I think they might be in the third tier.
Yeah. Look, Brady starting to look old. It's not all his fault. And then the whole Arians Brady's relationship is interesting. I find that
shows you how much your coach has to do with your success, man. I mean, and this is why we don't have to get into it now. Like, I know Brady by far has the best resume, but like, if you're going to tell me pick one quarterback in NFL history to play for your team, I'm not picking Brady. He's not my GOAT. Like, he's just not. I'm sorry. I think
that we'll disagree with, but
he fell into the best situation possible. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's not one of the best of all time. He absolutely is. He's a Hall of Famer. But if you're going to tell me he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, I don't buy it. I think Aaron Rodgers has the same amount of titles Brady has, if not more, if he's with Belichick. And I think you make the case for other quarterbacks as well. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, in 15 years, we're all going to just agree that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback we've ever seen. So this doesn't even matter right now.
Touche. No, look, I obviously don't agree with you on the whole Brady thing. We can have that discussion some other day.
You're a Jet fan, man. He's torched you for years.
I have nightmares about Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm a Giant fan, so I've seen my team beat him twice in Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's why you say that. Yeah, if you've watched 20 years of the one guy just absolutely murder your franchise, you'd have a different opinion. No, look, how much of this is on Brady? How much of this is on Arians? How much of this is on the defense? I mean, look, if we did a pie chart, I'm sure we'd find some number here. Yeah, it's equal. It's equal. Look, I think I would lean mostly toward the defense, because I think even with Brady's struggles, he's played well enough to win most of those games. Even today, with all of it was too late. But the defense. I mean, for that defense, that vaunted defense, to allow Tyreek Hill 200 yards in the first quarter,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, that is embarrassing. That isn't bad. Like, if I was a coach, I would pull every one of my starters after that first quarter. Legit.
Yeah.
Like, we don't deserve to win this game. If we give up 200 yards to a fucking receiver in the first quarter, not the first half, first quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's terrible. That's just absolutely terrible.
It is.
Yeah. So the Buccaneers are in trouble, man. They better get it together. They better get it together fast. I don't even know what their remaining schedule looks like, but they're hanging on for dear life right now in the playoff chase. Bears and the Packers. What else is to say? What's to say about this
game? The Bears are terrible. They're one of the worst offenses I've ever seen in my life. Welcome back to Mitch Trubisky. Nice to see you. Nice to see you struggle again. Listen, to me, the Packers are the beginning of that second tier I was talking about before. With the Saints, you have the Saints at top, but then you have the Packers and Seahawks. To me, I think those are realistically the three teams that can win the NFC.
I agree.
And maybe the Rams. I think you can make a case for the Rams too if Goff's not turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, just there's no way to break this game other than the Packers are just simply better than the Bears, and the Bears cannot move the football. You can break down stats all you want. That's just what it is.
Yeah, the Bears are embarrassing, man. The Bears are completely a mess right now on all levels, and Yeah, there's nothing else to really say about them. They just. I tweeted it. I was like, how are the Bears so bad at football and they don't have a coach named Adam Gase? But it's true. It's just like it's Nagy might be out of a job come January. So
right.
Who knows? Yeah, the team is, and his GM too, Pace, by the way, too. Jesus Christ, that trade just looks worse by the fact that they passed up on Watson and Mahomes. Forget Mahomes, Watson.
Well, they had Watson the year. If they had Watson that 1 year,
who knows, right? Who knows where they would be? So yeah, it's crazy. All right, and then we'll wrap up week 12. Well, no, actually, we don't wrap up week 12 because we got to take a game on Tuesday night, which is weird. So we'll break down those two games coming up. Seahawks and the Eagles. Got to pick for those games.
I think the Seahawks win this game. I mean, and this might be just me being a little biased because I do like the Seahawks this year. I got to believe that defense is going to start playing better. Dunlap, on the front line, Jamal in the back. Wagner in the middle. They have defensive playmakers on all three freaking levels. Like, you cannot be this bad on defense. And I think the Eagles is pretty much that thing where it's like, this is just what the doctors subscribe. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to see how that defense specifically performs. Because to me, a lot of people think, I personally think the Seahawks can win the Super Bowl. I do. That is if the defense clicks, though.
Yeah.
It's contingent on that. And to me, I look at the defense. I'm like, there's no reason why you should be this bad. Shaquille Griffin comes back this week. Like, get it together, Ken Norton. Get it together. Whatever you got to do, get it together. And we've seen it before. I mean, it's you just got to get hot in the playoffs. I mean, I'm a Giants fan. I've seen a 9-17 run the table in the Super Bowl. I saw a 10-6 team, average division winner, knock off the best team of all time. So, like, it's definitely possible. You just got to get hot. And that's what I'm looking forward to in the Seahawks-Eagles game, to see if the Seahawks can, if you're going to get your mojo back against anybody, it's against Carson Wentz and the Eagles right now.
Yeah, I can't dispute much of what you're saying there. I don't love the Seahawks, man. I really don't. I just don't trust that defense. I don't trust Pete Carroll in big games. I've said that, for instance. And their offense is still too healthy to scout. The Seahawks are a type of team where they'll put up 48 points one game and then they'll put up 20 points the next and have 3 turnovers and just play calling that'll just mystify you.
Russ has been bad lately.
Russ has been bad. It is the Eagles. Although I have a funny feeling the Eagles could win this game just because, I don't know. I don't trust that defense. Smart money to go with the Seahawks. I would pick the Seahawks, but wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles play well in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll pick the Seahawks though.
Okay.
And then the Ravens and the Steelers. Before, I did a podcast with my friends at Dead End on Tuesday, and I had the Ravens beating the Steelers. That was obviously before the freaking COVID ran wild on Baltimore's facility. It's hard. I mean, is Lamar's not? He's been ruled out completely, right, for that game, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
I believe he has. I'm not sure. We'd have to check on that. But even then, I still think they're going to be without Ingram and Dobbins.
Right.
I think they're going to be out with some other players that are going to be out too. I want to pick the Ravens because I think that this would be the Steelers are due to lose one of these games eventually here down the line, and it's going to be good for them to get a loss out of their way.
Right.
You know what? The hell with it. I'm going to stick with my pick. I'm going to say the Ravens pull off an upset. Who do pick the 49ers to beat the Rams just a couple hours ago? So, why not? I think the Ravens still might pull it off. Don't clown me if they get blown out 38-3.
No, I'm not going to clown you. I'm looking at the Steelers schedule right now, just because the possibility of them going over undefeated. I actually have them losing. If this sounds, it wouldn't surprise me if they lose at Buffalo. That's the game I have them losing. They really didn't have a bye week yet. They're going into this. They're playing Tuesday. They're going to play against Sunday. If they're playing a stronger team than Washington, I would probably pick that other team to win. But I think they could still eke it out against Washington. It's going forward against Buffalo at Buffalo. Obviously we don't think Buffalo is for real, but you're going to Buffalo. You haven't had a bye. Mm-hmm. You're exhausted. You've had this tumultuous season. Like, I just think that would be the week they would lose. So I got the Steelers this week. I don't think they're going undefeated though. I got them losing at Buffalo.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Maybe again at home against Indianapolis 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I think Buffalo. That's a good point for you. Buffalo's a good. Okay. That's a good. That's a good candidate to beat them. Although rivalry game, Ravens, everybody's counting on the Ravens.
If Lamar was healthy and he was playing,
yeah, I agree, and I don't know if Lamar's playing in this game, even on Tuesday. I don't know if he's playing. So, man, that's it. Week 12 NFL schedule is in the books. So I just realized too last week when I was editing, we didn't do a world's worst human. So if you got 2 selections this week, throw them at me.
Well, I'm going to just go with the same person I was going to have last week. My world's worst human is Rudy Giuliani.
How did I know?
Listen, man, being the mayor of New York during 9/11 gets you a lot of clout because this man is out of his fucking mind. I mean, has
he always been like this?
He was okay. So he was always racist,
right? No, that.
Always but he wasn't like conspiratorial out of his mind, like. So just quick back. So my dad, he's like a union president in the city. So he works with mayors. He works with the police union. My dad knows these people. So like I hear stories all the time. Even back then I hear stories. What I know about Giuliani is, yes, he's racist. He's a fucking mean person, but he was never like this. Like this is just straight up conspiracy theory. I live on another planet.
Right.
Like it's scary. What's even more scary is that we talked about this before where it's like we're trying to get people who don't agree with us on the other side back to reality and back to a place where, we might disagree on certain things, but we can at least have a discussion in reality. And all these lawsuits are doing and all this election fraud talk is doing is just poisoning the minds of people on the other side. It's making things worse for people like you and I to have conversations with our friends who are on the other side, with our family that's on the other side. And to me, it's almost like to the point where I consider you a traitor of this country. Like you are literally treacherous. Like this is awful. I mean, obviously by definition, like you're not. Actually, I don't even know if he's doing that. You're not giving, away government secrets or anything like that. But you are pretty much trying to destroy our democracy. And I don't even think that's an exaggeration. You are literally trying to destroy our democracy right now, and that makes you, to me, the world's worst human. He's just a horrible human being in general.
I will never
1 week.
I will never debate you on the depths of depravity that exist within Rudy Giuliani. Yeah, I just had to. I mean, I always knew he was racist and a piece of shit. I never remember him, being this bad.
He wasn't.
Where he's just like this, just so batshit crazy. Like I always knew him to be racist and have racist policies or whatever.
It's like movie villain bad.
Right. Like he's
when you go to the movies, like it's obvious who the bad guy is.
He's a Bond villain now.
Yes.
And I don't remember him being that, right? Like
because a lot of people's memories of him is like, he was the mayor of 9/11 in New York City during 9/11 and
boy, he ran that shit to the ground.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's easy and I'm not cheapening the event, but it is very easy for someone after the biggest terrorist attack happens domestically for you to go on TV and act like the strong individual and everyone to like you. Because at the time, like the whole country got behind Bush, the whole country got behind everybody. We all came together as a country, liberals and conservatives. It's easy to do that. So when you're the mayor of New York City during that time, it's easy just to stand there and everyone to love you because you are pretty much the biggest sympathy figure in the country right now. And then he's showing up at Yankee games. He's rooting for the Yankees or the Yankees dynasty. So it's like, oh yeah, look at him. Like he's rooting on the team. And what the media is showing, what like their public appearances, it exudes strength and it exudes like this is the man who has his stuff together and this is the man who's bringing the city back. So I could see why a lot of people think of Rudy Giuliani and think of this person who like he's a former prosecutor, like strong individual who has his stuff together and, helped New York City get out of one of the darkest times in U.S. history. But, there's another side to him that a lot of people don't know. And I think people are starting to see it now.
Yeah, he's terrible. But the fact that he's gotten even worse over time is just like, it's scary, man. It's scary. It really is, man. The guy's out of his mind. And then the shit leaking down his face and just God almighty.
It's a movie villain.
Yeah, it's a movie villain. If I didn't know any better, like I'd almost think he's purposely doing this. Like he's purposely just doing a fucking caricature of himself. But I
don't know how you look at that and be like agree with that. And that guy represents me. Like what? Really?
Yeah, I
like you identify with that? That's insane.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Yeah. So I got 2 selections this week. One for last week, and one for this week. So this week, I'll start with this week's Roger Goodell. Still with my theme. How do you let the Broncos play that game? It's just beyond me. Somebody. There has to be an adult in the room. There has to be a leader in the organization or in the list of organizations. And this falls on the commissioner. To me, the commissioner's got to step in and say, look, guys, what the hell are we doing here? Let's postpone the game. Can't have a team that doesn't have a starting quarterback on the roster. Like legit does not have a starting quarterback. And you can't just sign a guy off the street 24 hours and just say, hey, come play.
Because they have to pass protocols and everything. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it just, to me, this game should have been postponed. It wasn't. And I throw that at the foot of the owners. I throw that at the foot of the Players Association because they should have made a bigger deal about it. And ultimately, Roger Goodell, he's the guy. He's the head honcho. He's the guy that runs the league, and he's the guy that's supposed to make these calls, and he didn't, and it falls on him. So just a bad job all around by everybody. I just cannot fathom how they played that game. So that's that. And then my second pick, the pick that I would have went with last week, is Rahm Emanuel, the guy that just will not go away. If you don't know Rahm Emanuel, he's the ex-mayor of Chicago. Brilliant individual, Obama administration alum, Clinton administration alum, former congressman, the infamous mayor who covered up the Laquan McDonald shooting in Chicago, amongst other things, pro-NAFTA. Like, it's bad when like other people who are pro-trade think that Rahm Emanuel is too like trade happy. That's a problem. He's just a despicable human being on policy and just character in general. And the fact that Biden, and I don't think he was really going to be in the campaign, but just the fact that his name even floated out there, that it was even considered, it just, again, for all the leftists and all the progressives out there, it was like, oh yeah, we'll be able to move Biden to the left on certain things. I'm like, this is what I point you to. Rahm Emanuel. That Rahm Emanuel is being considered for a cabinet position in 2020. Or even in the discussion. Even if he's like the 8th man on a list of like on a list of 100, he shouldn't be on there. He shouldn't be on there.
Well, shout out to like AOC for calling Biden out on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that.
She basically was like, "Hell no, this is who Rahm Emanuel is," and she like, here's his resume.
Yeah.
But that's what they need to do. That's why I'm grateful for that win at the party. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and we had the discussion before, and I'm one of those people who listen. Biden's platform is more left than you probably would have imagined it's been. I mean, we can at least admit that we're talking about some student loan cancellation. But... I mean, we're not getting Medicare for all. We know that, but there are certain things that I think Biden has moved left on because there is a left going, and that he does recognize it. So listen, I tell my Republican friends this, or the ones I still talk to. I mean, where it's like, listen, if you as a Republican really are a Republican and like believe in conservative values and like have this idea of what the government should be like, I'm like, you should be absolutely ecstatic with a Biden presidency because he's the closest thing to a Republican
as you're ever going to get from a Democratic side of things, of course.
So I mean, and that's just the truth. So. I mean, it's pretty much what we expect, but hopefully, like I said, we got to protest. We gotta make our voices heard because I feel like that does move the needle. It just takes some time. We just got to continue to do it. But you're right, Rahm Emanuel is not a good look. No. This guy just won't fucking go away. He's like our Rudy Giuliani in a way. Not that bad, obviously, but he's just will not go away. Rudy Giuliani. I see. That's funny because the thing is, like, if I were to ask like my conservative friends or people that I know, like, who are the crazy people, the Democratic side? Like, I guarantee you they'd say like AOC.
They'll say AOC, but just for policy. Like, I'm just like batshit crazy. Like, I don't even think anyone on the Republican side really knows who he is. I don't think if you don't pay attention to politics, you have no idea who he is. Yeah, you're right. So he's pretty. Yeah, you're right.
I wonder, like, I'm gonna ask you that. Who do you think? Who do you think's the crazy person on the left? Like,
on the left,
crazy. Like, please, like, stop representing me. Like,
oh, God damn, that's a good question. Shit, can I sit on it for a week and think about it? Because
that's political pundits that I could think of.
Who?
Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, Jimmy does
out of his mind.
Jimmy Dore does. I like some of the things Jimmy Dore advocates for, but
I like the fact he's anti-establishment, and I do think he wants the same things we do, but I think pragmatically he's awful. Like I think he has no concept of how politics works, and he thinks it's just like, if you believe in this, then get it. Like he just doesn't understand how government works.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore's a good pick.
He does more harm than he does good.
Who else? That's an interesting question.
I got something. You mentioned this show. I want to hear this take on this. I think The Rising is a Trojan horse for fascism.
Really?
Yes.
Really? You don't like Rising?
There is no reason why.
Sagar, right? You hate Sagar.
How does Crystal Ball sit there and listen to this dude like praise Tucker Carlson? And then with no pushback. And then not even no pushback, kind of like conceding some things. That's...
Look, I've heard that a lot from people. Look, I don't pay attention.
Bad, man.
Sagar,
and I used to watch that show when it first came out. I'm like, oh, this is like refreshing. And then I started... And looking wrong, I'm open to debate, but Sagar pushes some dangerous shit with no pushback from Crystal.
I agree. I think Crystal, because I think the thing with Crystal is I think she's so cognizant on trying to make it about discourse and hearing the other side that I think, I'm just me psychoanalyzing. I'm obviously not in there, so I don't know. But
yeah,
I think it's almost a concerted effort of like, hey, we got to listen to each other, we got to talk to each other, and even if we don't agree, we have to let people point their point of views, blah blah blah. I think it's that sort of view. I think it's just such an effort to do that I think that they've gone away from saying, no, this is kind of bullshit. Like, no. And look, I think Sagar does make some good points sometimes. There are other things where there's times where I find myself nodding my head and I'm like, oh, okay, he makes a good point about that. Like any conservative, we're not going to agree on a lot of things.
I agree with you, but like, so does Tucker Carlson, right? Tucker Carlson would say, well, there's a corporate class that's ruling. Like he will identify the
right.
But then his solution would be like for instance, it'd be like one person, like a leftist populist and a righty populist see that there's a broken bus, right? And they both approach it and they both identify, oh wow, this bus broke down. Wow, that's crazy. But a leftist will be like, well, it probably broke. We'll check the engine and like, well, it probably broke down because of this, and we need to fix this. And where a rightist populist would look at it and be like, oh, there's a black bus driver. Like they'll take it that route.
No, you're right. You
get what I'm saying? So like, and that's what's scary about Tucker Carlson. We had a discussion about Tucker before, where it's like Tucker is really, really good at identifying the problem, and so is Sagar. He's very good at saying these are the people who are screwing you over, and he is correct. He's 1,000% correct. But his solutions to everything else is inherent, like so dangerous. Like there is no nuance to it. It's just strictly like it's fascist. And Crystal just kind of sits there and just kind of like if you and I were having
she bites her tongue. Yeah.
If you want to have a conversation about Tucker, like there's no way Tucker Carlson's name's getting brought up without me making sure that whoever's listening knows that this man is effing dangerous. Like we cannot platform that. And if you are a real leftist, like Crystal Ball says she is, and I don't think she's a grifter. I'm not taking it that far, but it is her job to be like, Sagar, like, come on now. You know what I mean? And Tucker is extreme. It's not a valid other side of the argument. He takes it to the extreme.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I do think that Crystal should challenge him more, and she does. Yeah. She does. I watch it religiously every day. Okay. She does challenge him on some things. They do get into it a lot. I think it depends on the topic. Like there's other things that they kind of see eye to eye on, or she sees where she's coming from. They had a spirited debate on immigration a few months back that I was actually surprised she actually stood up to Sagar on some things that he was saying. I think on some like stuff that we're really passionate about. I think that I think it depends on the topic. Like I think if you watch it one day and you see it that they have an agreement on something, you'll be floored by it. But actually, since she does kick back on some things, immigration, the drug war stuff, police stuff. I think there's a lot of. They had some differences on the police and protesters and things of that nature. So that look, I agree with you. I think that a lot of the things that Sagar's good at identifying the problem. Is this a solution, right? What is the solution? And it's the same thing with every faction. Like there's an old adage, like David Duke or any head of the KKK and Minister Farrakhan probably have a lot of things in common and agree on some things, right? And they both are good at identifying the problems from their own opposite perspective. It's just the solutions, right? Where do they meet? Are they meeting on those solutions, or are they going apart on their solutions? So, yeah, no, I agree. I that's a good question, though. Give me a week to sit on that. Who on the left I think is just batshit crazy. One more hot take. One more. Yeah, go ahead.
I love Kyle Kalinske, but he's starting to rub me the wrong way too.
Really? God, that's surprising.
Yeah. Don't worry, he's not on that side yet. I don't think he's a grifter. Right. I think he's too purist, which I understand. I admire that about people who are purist, but I don't think he's pragmatic enough. I think he's very idealistic and not I think he's too entrenched in his ideology to like actually make pragmatic decisions.
It's funny because I like Kyle because he is a purist and he is an ideologue, and I'm at heart that person. I would say I do think I can be pragmatic if I have to be, but I can see where that would rub somebody the wrong way.
Just because like leading up to this election, like you are a leftist political commentator, right? Like for instance, like I do this purposely. I have my beefs with Joe Biden and Joe Biden's administration. I have my beefs with Democratic Party, and every once in a while on Twitter, I'll jab at them. But my goal is to advance the society more left. My goal is to advance the society, where we're closer to Medicare for all, where we're closer to the Green New Deal. And I assume that, and not that I assume, I know for a fact Kyle's agenda is the same way. I don't think pragmatically the best way to do that is to consistently bash the left. I think there is a way where you can hold the feet to the fire. But at the time during an election where we still have Donald Trump in office and, we have to all vote, I think putting stuff out there about Biden that's kind of like not that serious that you, from a pure standpoint, have a problem with, I think that's, to me, not smart. And I understand being a purist, but sometimes it's not necessary to bring up the fact that Joe Biden voted for the Iraq war when we're talking about something that's completely different and comparing him to Trump in other situations. Like, I get it, and he's right. But I just feel like sometimes it's just like, I get it. Like, I understand where you're coming from, Kyle. I get
it. Right. No, good point. I don't necessarily agree. I think that you should analyze all parts of someone's record.
No, I agree.
I get what you're saying, that it's not important to the conversation we're having right at this moment, but I think it is important. I think it is important to tell a narrative and a story of like, hey, do you really trust Joe Biden? This is a guy that has been wrong on every foreign policy decision in his 40 years in Congress. Is this someone that you now want to be the head of the government? Now, I know if your point is compare that to Donald Trump, who's a fucking idiot, obviously we know that, but I think most people know that. Like, I think most common sense, like us, people having folks like us, know that. I think they know that if you compare Donald Trump and Joe Biden, it's not even.
I don't think so. I think by Kyle doing that, I don't think he means to do this, but I think he's giving
gaslighting.
He's not so much gaslighting, but he's giving that centrist a reason to be like, well, both sides. You see, Kyle saying that Joe Biden. It promotes that both sides argument that bothers me a lot, where it's like, I understand that Joe Biden has his downfalls, and we should absolutely be critical. We're critical. We talk about it all the time. We're very open that we're not happy with the Joe Biden administration, that we're not happy with a Democratic candidate. But there's a way to do it without equivocating what Joe Biden has done in the past to what Trump is and was. And I feel like he does that a lot. I feel like there are times where it's like you can't tell. Like if I just showed you Kyle Kalinske and just showed you 10 videos, 5 of Donald Trump and 5 of Joe Biden, like you just wouldn't be able to tell like pretty much like who he thinks is worse. I think he does sometimes. He'll come out and say, lately he has, like after the pandemic exploded, especially in the beginning, like he was very like, when Bernie lost, man, he did not take it well.
Yeah,
I think the way we criticize our side, we have to be very careful, because sometimes it looks like that both sides are equally as bad, and of course in our minds they're not. So the way he criticized it, it's almost he's elevating Trump to the way where it's like you could kind of cancel out foreign policy because Joe Biden was this. You can kind of cancel out Biden's record against the black community because of the crime bill, which is fair to bring up, but there's ways to bring it up and there's ways to talk about it in reality, where it's like, no, Joe Biden did this, but I mean, he is way better than Trump. And I feel like he has a difficult time doing that because he's so purist.
Yeah, I agree to a point, man. I just think that I see more eye to eye on Kyle Kalinske, because I think there's this narrative that you can't criticize at all. right? Like what you're saying is, yes, you can criticize, but there's a tactful way of doing it.
If you have an agenda.
But I think that
I am not shy of that. I have an agenda.
Well, everybody has an agenda to a point, right?
Right.
The problem that I have when you're discussing politics is that you can't criticize anybody, right? Like if you criticize Joe Biden, then you are a traitor and you don't value democracy. And I just I don't agree with that.
Right.
Like,
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying, like, I think that Kyle falls into that camp. Like, no, you're not going to tell me that I have to just basically fall in line and support everything this dude does. If I have a problem with something that this dude has done or represented or has done in the past, then I'm going to say it. Right. And I believe in that. I agree with that. Like, I'm not just going to fall in line because of this, like, oh, you can't give the Republicans talking points. Look, I hate that notion that we're giving Republicans talking points. Look, they would have found their own talking points anyway. Like, you think the Republicans can't do their own research either? You think they can't look up Joe Biden's war record? Like, Of course they can. So I always hate that notion anyway, because it's meant to silence and quell, accountability and criticism on your own team. Right. It's meant, like, if you quell that, well, don't disrespect us. And like, I also think that, like, it also plays into the lesser of two evils thing, right? Like, where, well, Joe Biden, Donald Trump is clearly bad. So see, Joe Biden is inherently good. Like, no, like, you have to look at it from a transparent view. Right. They're both bad. One is worse. One is clearly worse. No one is debating that. But just because one is absolutely worse, don't try to make it as the other guy is not inherently good, right? Like, don't try to make that. And I think that's what Kyle. And look, I agree. I think there's a skill around that, and I think Kyle's a passionate guy, and I think that's what I think. And I'm not trying to speak for him. I don't know this guy from.
And for the record, I like him a lot. This is just like
yeah. I think that I think that everybody processes grief in their own way. I mean, look, I took the Bernie loss hard, and I was probably a little bit extreme on my Joe Biden criticism in the ensuing months, and I've kind of calmed down as
we both were. Yeah, but I think any progressive was. But I do think there's a way to do it without.
There's a skill. This shit is a skill. Like, there's a way of doing it without seeming like
both sides are equally as bad, and I feel like Kyle does that.
But if you believe that both sides are bad, and there's evidence that suggests that they are, I mean, is it necessary? Is it necessarily,
But I know that's not his opinion. That's my thing.
Okay.
Kyle's opinion isn't that both sides are equally as bad. That's not his opinion. Kyle is a lot like us, where, like, I don't really consider myself a Democrat, but I vote Democrat because they're the closest thing to
represent my dreams. Yeah.
And I feel Kyle's the same way, and I feel like he doesn't necessarily. He hasn't. He has in the past, but I think when Bernie lost, something inside him snapped.
It's just the hopelessness, man. It's just like, really, we lost to this fucking guy who didn't campaign in like half of the states and had no money, and then literally, like, in one fell swoop, the whole Democratic establishment got behind him. Obama made some calls, and he's winning the primary. Like, just like that. I think it's just the way Joe Biden won. That was just like,
I think so too. Really, and just for the record, just to clear things up, like 95% of what Kyle does, I love. I just think it's recently I've been going on his page, and like I just been finding myself like annoyed. Like, okay, Kyle, I fucking get it.
We get it. Yeah, we get it. Yeah. No, hey, that's why discourse is important. And look, we're not always going to love everything that people that we agree with. We're not always going to love what they say, and we're not always going to love what point they come to. I just think that we just have to take what it is, have discussions, not be afraid to critique and say, yo, I'm not down with that. But it is what it is. It is what it is. So yeah, that's my two world. We got into a mini political discussion there. We'll be back to the political discussion next week, because I have a lot to say about Obama's book. I haven't read it, but I've read the excerpts.
I'll read the excerpts and I'll read up on it.
I've read the excerpts, and then I've traversed through the whole media tours, and oh man, it's gonna be story time at AGS. I have a theme song playing and everything. Yeah,
I already know it's gonna be like. It's gonna be like half of me being like, okay, I know where he's coming from, but there's gonna be a lot of buts.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of buts for sure on Obama's like 18th autobiography. But yeah, man, that's it. We're gonna get out of here. Great show as always. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for supporting the show, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. You guys know where to find us. We don't need to repeat it. AGS Podcast on Twitter. AGS Pod on Twitter, AGS Podcast on Instagram, Any Given Sunday on Facebook. You know where to find me on Twitter at DManuel Brown, Instagram DManuel Brown, Facebook Manuel Brown, Snapchat MannyBro15. Josh, if you want to tell the folks where to find you on Twitter.
I'm at Josh_Rodriguez_ Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow my podcast, The Dime NBA, at The Dime NBA. Just search The Dime with Josh Rodriguez on all podcast platforms. The NBA is back, so I'll be doing that. And also at New Pod on the Block if you like boy bands. Yes, sir. I completely understand. Don't worry.
Yeah, make sure you go check out that content, man. It's great work. Yeah. Great work. The Dime is back. Good show this past week, by the way. Yeah, so go ahead and support those. Again, thank you for supporting the podcast, man. If you like the show, if you like what we're doing, we've gotten a lot of love and a lot of attention from a lot of folks out there sending us great messages. We appreciate those, but man, put that in writing. Go drop a review on Apple, iTunes, Apple, whatever they call themselves these days. Go drop a review for us, man. We really appreciate it. That only helps the show. So if you got good things to say, if you like what we're doing here, go drop a review on iTunes and let the people know that they're missing out on listening to Any Given Sunday. Yeah, we're gonna get up out of here. Thank you for all the birthday wishes too. Really appreciate it, guys. Really made me feel special, so I really appreciate that. We're gonna get up out of here. Hopefully, you guys had a happy, safe, blessed week. It's gonna be a long week. A week after the holidays is always rough. So keep your heads up, everybody, and hope our boy Nate is doing okay. 24 hours later. Doing all right. Yeah, but we're going to get up out of here. Peace, guys. We love y'all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. We'll be back next week with another episode of the podcast. For Josh Rodriguez, I'm Manny Brown. We are out of here. Peace.